In the novel, Grand Duke Vernus committed terrible sins. Ever since young, he boasted of an invincible talent as a warrior, but as he aged, he became frustrated with the fact that his body was rapidly weakening. At that time, a secret society called Silver Blood approached the Grand Duke offering to reveal a method for him to regain his youth in exchange for a cooperation with them. That method is no other than eating someone of Vernus's blood. The dark tree created using the blood of a wicked ancient deity. If one nourishes it with the blood from someone from Grand Duke Vernus's descent, the fruit of rejuvenation will blossom. Especially when it's infused with the divine blood of an awakened, the effects will become much stronger. Thus, the Grand Duke sacrificed all of his illegitimate children, but the only one he kept alive was Mordé. The reason was that he needed a battle weapon that is exclusively for him, and at the same time, he needed a substitute for the Grand Duke. The substitute for the Grand Duke doesn't necessarily mean a ruler who would govern a country. 500 years ago, when the gods left the mortal world, they passed down one obligation to their descendants. That obligation is to protect the seal of the Demon King, which can be achieved by borrowing the power of other gods. Once a year, the Grand Duke must engage in a one-on-one battle against the manifestation of the Demon King to protect the seal. Since the fight takes place outside the realm of reality, losing doesn't mean death. But as the power of the seal weakens, the Grand Duke will lose the right to battle the manifestation of the Demon King. This loss is equivalent to forfeiting his claim to the throne. That's why the Grand Duke needs a shadow who will perform this role instead. After that, we can see the conversation between the Archduke and Baron. Baron comes to the Archduke while he is about. They eat a fruit. He informs the Duke that Mord is leaving tomorrow and if he wants to meet with him. The Duke knows and tells that he doesn't understand what Ilden is up to as he is training with Mord every day and has taken Mord in the Gatekeeper Legion, and now suddenly he is sending Mord a valuable talent to the outside world alone under the pretext of the Gatekeeper Unit's secret mission. The Duke then smiles and says that it doesn't matter to him, as if Mord doesn't pledge his allegiance to him, he will rather eat him up before he grows stronger. By saying this, the Duke bites the fruit, and as he eats it, he gets a sudden increase in mana and awakens his divine blood. He then looks at Baron and orders him to go and catch Mord. Baron agrees to the order, and as he is about to leave, the Duke tells him to do his job secretly as Kessner is keeping an eye on Mord. Only those who have earned the Grand Duke's trust can enter this place, and among them, only those who can share the darkness embraced by the Grand Duke are allowed in here. However, Kessner is completely unaware about the existence of this place. Yet, he's the most trusted warrior by the Grand Duke. So Baron gets excited to do his job as he wants to prove that he is more capable than Kessner. Now back to the current situation, Baron is getting beaten by Mord one-sidedly. Anticipating the Grand Duke's attack was not hard at all. After all, Mord must be one of the two remaining illegitimate childs for him to use or for him to eat, considering the recent incidents of the disappearance of his illegitimate children over the past years. It's likely that he has already made contact with the Silver Blood, and now that he knows that Mord won't be loyal to him, he must have wanted to handle Mord as quickly as possible. At that time, he probably thought that sending a high-level warrior would be the best choice. Mord gets that the old shit wants to eat him. He gets mad and catches the collar of Baron and shouts at him saying that he will have to die now and the Duke Harden will also meet his miserable end by his hand. Baron gets confused to see the face of Mord and thinks if he really will be able to defeat the Grand Duke. Baron then recalls that Mord has used Aura Gauntlet, and he is just 15 years old. Baron has seen lots of genius, but he has never seen someone like Mord, who has an overwhelming growth rate, and his growth rate may be more than the Archduke. Baron gets that if he let Mord grow any further, he will be the demise of the Archduke, so he decides to give his all and finish him today. He then holds his sword tight and swings it hard. Mord sees this, dodges the sword in the correct time. Baron activates Blade Aura, which is a fatal technique that can be used against Vernus descendants who have achieved the stage of awakening their divine blood. Seeing this, Mord didn't panic as he can use Aura Gauntlet, which is no par with Blade Aura. So now the one with more aura will be the winner. Baron is so determined to kill Mord that he uses his own vitality to amplify his powers and rushed towards Mord. But even this power of Baron is no match against Mord. Mord uses his aura and infuse it with impulse balls and throws them at Baron. The impulse ball hits Baron, and a huge explosion occurs, frying Baron to crisps. Mord goes to Baron and punched him, making him into dust. The mage is seeing this and gets scared to see the power of Mord. As the mage is about to run, Mord notices it and rushes towards him and kills him by piercing his heart. Mord then takes out his hand and sees that his hand is stained with silver blood. Mord gets that the silver bloods are involved, and he feels uneasy because he cannot catch the mage alive. At that time, Mord senses someone, so he makes his fist and throws a punch in the air. He then said the person to reveal himself, as he is already aware that he is following him since he left the Grand Duchy. As there is no response from the man, Mord starts to throw punch aimlessly. Seeing this, the person tells Mord to stop and reveal himself. By seeing that the person had pointy ears, Mord gets surprised. They are a species that symbolizes longevity. They mature and age later than humans and have a longer lifespan, and the name of the species is elves. But from the size of the ear, Mord gets that this person is a half-elf. Mord then asked, "Who is he?" The half-elf replied that he is Kale, and he is from the Gatekeeper unit. He is also a member of the Shadow Wolf unit under General Ilden's direct command. There are a total of 5,000 from the Gatekeeper Legion in charge of the northern region's White Demon Realm. Their main purpose is to fight the demonification, so Vernard's divine blood descendants are the center of the force with soldiers that support them. The Shadow Wolf Squad is Ilden's direct affiliate special task force with the purpose of guarding their allies and assassinating their enemies. That is why they have a different skill compared to normal Vernard's warriors, and that's stealth. Kale gets surprised to see that Mord has seen through his stealth, which is the best within the Shadow Wolf Squad. After the introduction, Kale tells Mord that he is sent by General Ilden to escort him. Mord asked if he is really escorting him. "I was only going to help when you were in danger. I thought that would be better than fighting together from the get-go. I was thinking of securing an escape route." Kale says this to Mord. Hearing all of this, Mord tells Kale to prove him. Kale then shows a bracelet and tells him that the General Ilden told him to show this as a prove. Seeing this, Mord believes that Kale is actually sent by General Ilden. Kale asked Mord about the bracelet. Mord replied that this is the bracelet of General Ilden that he broke. Kale gets shocked to hear this. Mord then tells Kale to go back as he don't need an escort who creepily follows him around without introducing himself and does nothing when he is actually fighting. Kale tells he was looking for a good chance, and also he can't go back as this is General Ilden's order. Mord says that he has never received a mission like this and tells Kale to go back. Kale gets in a difficult situation, as if he gets back, General Ilden will be disappointed in him. Kale thinks of a way to convince Mord. He tells Mord that he will pay for everything in this trip, and not only that he will stand guard at night when he is sleeping, he will also do the cooking and do all the chores. Mord gets a bit soft, seeing that he wants to do all the things. Mord also recognizes the name Kale. He's a character from the novel. He was abandoned by his father because he was half-elf, and when he was at the brink of death, Ilden rescued him. From that point on, he was absolutely loyal to Ilden. When Aiden and his companions were fighting Ilden, he was a big help with his skilled stealth techniques and spirit magic. Kale's a very skilled man, but at the end he died as an extra. Kale looks young and rather feminine, but he is older than Mord and an expert in assassinations. Mord then thinks that from now on the blood of silver is going to ambush him, so it will be great help to have a companion like him. He then accepts Kale's proposal, and for his first task, he tells Kale to get rid of the bodies and erase their tracks from here, so that it's hard to follow them. After that, we can see this news has gone to the ears of the Archduke. But he misunderstood, thinking that it is the work of someone who is escorting Mord. The subordinate of the Duke asked him what they should do from now on. The Archduke said to let him be and just keep the tracks of his location. The subordinate asked if this will be enough. Archduke replies that in this battle, many Silverblood has lost their life and they are not an organization to let this slide away, so from now on, they will take care of this matter. On the side of Mord, we can see they have left the forest and comes in front of a huge gravestone. The both of them searched it for 5 days and finally they have found it. Mord then sits under a tree. Kale asked him that what will they do now. Mord replies that they will have to wait until it's dark. He also orders Kale to stand guard so that no one comes near here. Mord then sleeps and Kale stand guarding him. Time passes and now it's nighttime. Kale lights up a bonfire and sits in front of it and thinks that his life is so sad that he now has to work as a servant for a kid who is an intermediate warrior. Mord gets up and tells Kale to stay focused, and it is beginning. Mord and Kale sees that a dungeon appears at the top of the gravestone. There are secret dungeons in the novel that can only be revealed when all the conditions are fulfilled. This dungeon has 3 conditions. First, the moon has to be at least a crescent moon. Second, there must be nothing in the way of the moonlight shining down on Earth. Third, there must be someone with divine blood within 5 meters of the gravestone. Mord climbs the gravestone and stands there looking at the dungeon. This dungeon is very hard to find, but as Mord has read the novel, he finds it easily. The loot of this dungeon is the world fragment. Mord then jumps inside the dungeon by telling Kale to stand outside and guard the area. Mord gets inside the dungeon and sees a crescent moon in the sky. The dungeon name is the Lunar Temple. There were many gods in the ancient times, but there are none remaining now. This lunar temple also used to be a place that used to worship countless gods of the night, although their names and existence have been forgotten now. Mord walks inside the dungeon and sees that tons of skeletons are coming towards him. Mord recognizes this monsters as warrior souls. The god they worshipped lost to another god and disappeared, leaving these warriors with only their insanity and their soul. Mord gets ready to fight the monsters and decides to finish them as fast as possible. These souls are scary in the real world because they cannot be stopped using ordinary methods. But in this world, it's possible. It's possible because of mana. Of course, that does not mean that they're easy to deal with, especially since these souls were warriors in their past lives. However, for Mord, it is easy as he is much stronger. Mord uses his aura impulse ball and gets rid of all the warrior souls in one go. Mord now walks forward in search of the Guardian. He sees a huge statue of a werewolf and gets that this is the core of the dungeon. He then sees that a werewolf is sitting under the statue. Feeling Mord's presence, the werewolf gets up and turns towards Mord and says that he will be offered to the goddess as a sacrifice. Mord looks at the werewolf and thinks that this Guardian was supposed to be a pretty powerful enemy in the novel. Even Aiden, who is stronger than most advanced mages, had a hard time against this werewolf. He was outnumbered, but magic did not work on these guys most of the time because of their goddess's blessing. But it doesn't matter to Mord, since I'm not a mage. Unholy invader, have you come alone? Disrespectful. But you seem to know the warrior's pride. Then we will treat you as a warrior, would the Guardian says this to Mord. At this time, many wolves and werewolves comes out and surrounds Mord. Hearing the speech of the Guardian, Mord asked him that if he means they will be fight one-on-one. Fights between warriors ape a sacred thing. You came here with the pride of a warrior, so we will respond accordingly, the Guardian replied. Mord finds this situation unfamiliar as it never happened with Aiden when he comes here with his companions. The reason behind this unfamiliar situation must be because he has come here alone. Mord then tells the Guardian that he also prefers a one-on-one fight, and he also hopes that they don't waste each other time. Hearing this, Guardian asked that does he mean. In the novel, the Guardian was resurrected with the goddess power each time Aiden and his friends killed it. So, Mord thinks that it would be better to just fight it starting from its 3rd phase. That's why Mord provoke it to transform it into its 3rd phase. The werewolf gets angry and asked Mord that how is he to order him to transform. Mord then awakens his divine blood. The Guardian feels the incredible mana of Mord and gets that Mord is also a divine blood holder. He then thinks that Mord is worthy of for his 3rd phase. The Guardian then sucks the power from his fellow werewolf brothers and gets more powerful. The size of the werewolf also increases. Mord didn't expected that it would grow this big. As the transition of the werewolf is complete, Mord rushed towards it and punched it with aura. But the aura punch of his gets blocked by the werewolf's mana shield, and this shield is the proof that this werewolf is a worshipper of a god. Mord then takes a step back and starts to throw aura punches. The Guardian takes all the punches, thinking that its shield will be enough to block all of them. But after a while, the shield breaks, and the werewolf was spent flying from getting hit by the aura punch. The werewolf feels that Mord is very strong. At that time, Mord comes in front of him and throws a punch at him. It dodges the punch and lands a clear hit on Mord's stomach. As the punch lands on Mord's body, the werewolf gets shocked to see that it has no effect of Mord, as the shock of the punch has been absorbed by Mord's muscles. Mord grabs its arm and throws it in the sky. He then jumps and punched it on the face. The werewolf flies away and hits the goddess statue and falls on the ground. Mord quickly goes towards there, and by using his lightning strike, he lands a huge blow on the werewolf's chest. Getting hit by this, the werewolf dies. Seeing this, Mord releases his divine blood state. At that time, a voice comes to Mord, which says he is amazing. Mord figures out that the voice is coming from the statue. The goddess then thanks Mord for granting his great warrior an honorable rest. Mord asked what it means by an honorable rest. The goddess tells that the Guardian wished to die honorably as a warrior, but he was stabbed in the back by the enemy and died. Unable to let go of that, he had become a ghost of this dungeon, and now Mord have gifted him the end he had wished for. Mord now gets the reason why the werewolf smiles when he fights with him one-on-one. The goddess then gives Mord a bracelet and tells that if he let that bracelet take in moonlight, it will protect the person he wants to protect when he wish. Mord looks at the bracelet and thinks that it will be quite useful for him when he wants to protect something. He then tells the goddess that he will use it well. At that time, the presence of the goddess has left the statue. Mord then moves closer to the statue and breaks it with one punch. From the broken statue, the world fragment comes out. Mord takes the world fragment, and the dungeon has been cleared. All the spirits that were trapped in the dungeon were released. Mord gets out and sees that Kale is sitting on a stone guarding this place. Seeing Mord, Kale asked if he has cleared the dungeon. Mord replied yes. Kale gets down from the stone and requests Mord to go on a village so that he can sleep. We've got a long way to go anyway. We'll stop by some villages and towns. Mord tells this to Kale. Hearing this, Kale asked him that where he is planning to go. Mord replies that he can't really say, since they will going to multiple places, but first, they will go around all over Lutvan Kingdom. Mord and Kale then goes to the commercial city of Reline. Kale is very frustrated and tells Mord that they should rest properly for a bit, as it has been 20 days they have left the Grand Duchy. Mord didn't care about Kale's word, he was in his own thought. In this 20 days, Mord has managed to collect 2 world fragments. After the Wolf Goddess dungeon, Mord attacked another dungeon, but there weren't any additional rewards like in the Wolf Goddess dungeon. But still, he was able to acquire the world fragment and artifacts imbued with divine power. There are 2 reasons Mord has come to Reline. One is to look for something in the Reline's black market, and the other is to clear the underground dungeon. After that, the both of them goes to an inn. Mord gets Kale to rest here until it's night, but Kale has his own plans, so he requests Mord that he wants to go outside. Mord lays down and tells Kale to go and quickly finish his reporting to Ilden, and he will waiting for him till sunset. Kale says that he is not going to report anyone. I already know that you make those reports every time we stop by a city. No need to hide it. If it had bothered me, I wouldn't have even brought you along with me. Mord said this to Kale. Kale gets surprised to see that Mord has figured it out. He also says to Mord that he has to go out to replenish his funds. Due to Mord's extreme appetite, Kale has lost all of his money and now he is completely broke, so he needs to gather some money, and for that he has to go outside. After that, Kale goes out saying Mord to stay quietly in this room and not to make a fuss. As Kale gets back, he gets shocked to see that the whole inn is on fire. At that time, Mord was still inside the inn, checking out the powers of the world fragments. The world fragments are pieces of the complete world that the ancient gods used to create this world, where each fragment contains different elements. Some contain lava fields where fire elementals can dance in, while others contain hot and desolate desert fields. These fragments were like puzzles, and unless they were fitted together, they exist separately. However, when they are combined, they possess immense power to be harnessed. Another remarkable aspect of the world fragments is that the acquired fragments become integrated within oneself, forming an imaginary world that one can access any time. When one's consciousness is projected, the imaginary world will almost look like the real world. That's why it will be possible to train physically, and the experience gained will be fully reflected in reality as well. Although other people may perceive it as someone just meditating, Mord sits in a lotus position and gets inside the world fragment. The first fragment Mord obtained from the war god's graveyard contained a massive mountain rising above the clouds, and the fragment obtained from the second dungeon contained a dense forest beneath a pale full moon. Luckily, the two fragments were able to combine, greatly expanding Mord's imaginary world. But unfortunately, the fragment he obtained after the wolf goddess dungeon didn't match and remained as a fragment. So the power Mord can draw from the world fragments and greatly increased, and he is curious to try it out. While Mord was inside his thought, he heard a lady shouting to help his child. Mord hears this and takes the child from the inn and gets out of there and safely hand over the child to his mother. Mord looks at the surrounds and sees that the whole area is in chaos. Seeing this, he gets angry and notices two men escaping. Mord sensed their magic power and gets that they are the ones who caused his explosion. Mord gets mad and decides to kill him. As the men are jumping on the roofs, Mord followed them and eventually caught up with one of them. He throws a punch, but the man dodges it and falls from the roof. As the man falls, he hurts his hand, and as Mord stands in front of him, he asked, "Mord, who is he?" Mord is extremely angry and tells the man there is no need to exchange their names as he will be death soon. The man shouts that he would never be defeated by a young lad like him. While the man was talking, Mord gets behind him and punched the man on the face and sent him flying towards a wall. The man hits the wall hard and shatters it. As Mord is about to finish him at that time, the man's companion distracted Mord. While Mord was looking at that, the yellow-haired man at that time, the other man eats some pill and gets bigger and stronger. The man then mocks Mord, telling him that a greenhorn like him will never beat him. Mord didn't give a crap about it and quickly kills the man by blowing his head with a single punch. The yellow-haired man gets scared to see him. Mord tells the yellow-haired man to get down. Seeing the angry face, Mord the man gets so scared that he cannot even run away. Mord then gives a flying kick on the man's back and sent him flying towards a wall. Mord slowly walks towards the man and tells him to kneel down and obediently answer all of his questions. At that time, Kale arrives at the scene and grabs the man's neck from behind and knocks him out. Later on, the man wakes up and found himself inside a house and sees Mord and Kale is standing in front of him. The both of them give an angry look and warns the man to only open his mouth when he is only answering their questions. Mord then asked who was the guy who was chasing him and if he is from the Second King organization. Hearing the name of the organization, the man gets shocked and he replied to Mord that he didn't know anything. Mord gets that the man is lying, so he punched his head and tells him to speak the truth. On the hand, Kale doesn't know anything about this, so he asked Mord what's the Second King organization is trying to do. Mord tells Kale that this organization is trying to revive the ruined King Arch-Lich. The criteria for naming mages is crystal clear. Second circle's beginner-level mages, fourth circle's intermediate-level mages, sixth circle's advanced-level mages, eighth circle's senior mages, and those within the domain of the ninth circle are called top mages. The title Arch-Lich is the name given to top mages who turn themselves into the undead, and they're called monarchs, to symbolize their command over the army of the undead. The Arch-Lich of the returning monarch group had a secret backup plan in case he would be annihilated. He fragmented his soul into several pieces and sealed them, in a way that putting those pieces together could revive him, and the returning monarch group is looking for those fragments right now. Mord explains all this to Kale. He then teases the yellow-haired man, saying that he belongs to a pathetic group. The man bites Mord's bait and gets angry and says that he is not someone from a pathetic group. Mord then asked him about the identity of their group. The yellow-haired man gets a bit nervous as he figures out that Mord is from the Vernard's bloodline, and if he tells him about them, the Archduke Vernard might turn his back on them. But in front of Mord's anger, the man has no choice but to reveal his group's identity. The man says that he belongs to a group named Gramolder. They are a group that aim to stop the 3 prophecies of doom for this world. One of those prophecies they are trying to stop is the returning monarch. The man also says that the returning monarch group is very powerful, as even if just the upper tiers of that group unleash their power right now, they could easily turn this whole nation upside down. And the Arch-Lich that those guys worship is practically a god of death, and if he is revived, this world will meet its end. Mord understands the situation, and he again asked him that why he was been chased by that group. The man replied that he has stole something precious to them. At that time, Kale takes out a ring and says that he found this in his pocket. The man tells that this is the item he stole, and it's the key to opening the doors to the underground ruins of the Arch-Lich in this city. Mord is a bit confused, as in the novel, neither the group Gramolder nor this key made an appearance. In the novel, the Arch-Lich was resurrected and was easily defeated by Aiden, so this might be the reason the name Gramolder is not mentioned in the novel. Mord takes the key in his hand and thinks that the Arch-Lich was resurrected at the later parts of the novel. And even though the Arch-Lich is defeated by Aiden, it took thousands of life as sacrifice. Mord decides to save all the lives, so he needs to defeat this group. Mord puts the key in this pocket and tells the man to leave quickly. Kale gets surprised and he asked Mord if he is really thinking of letting this guys go away. Mord says that their group is not strong, so he doesn't mind if he goes away. Kale again asked him that what he is going to go to the returning monarch group. Mord replied that he will crush them, but first he needs to destroy all the soul fragments so that the Arch-Lich cannot be revived. Mord decides to go to the underground ruins to destroy the first soul fragment. At night, he can see Mord has come to the black market and looking for some item. He bought a cheap old dagger and a book. Kale sees this, and he cannot figure out that what Mord wants to do with them. Afterwards, the both of them goes to the gutter of the city. Mord tells Kale that in this gutter there is the hidden passage to the ruins. Kale said that he will never get in there to search that. Mord then tells Kale to use this spirit magic to find the location. Kale replied that he can't do that as he is an wind spirit magic user and he cannot use water spirits. Kale then uses his wind spirits and tells them to search for any markings. The spirits roam above the water, and after a while they found some marking and reports to Kale. The spirit blows a strong wind and water splits, revealing the gate of the hidden passage. The two of them goes there, and Kale inspects it and sees that it is a steel gate sealed with some magic. Mord then takes out the old rusty dagger, and with it, he cuts the plum of his hand and spreads his blood all over the dagger. Kale questioned Mord that what he is doing. A long, long time ago, the gods were at war with each other. In that war, the warrior god lost everything to the gods who used magic as a weapon. So he sacrificed his very existence to create this weapon. It's a mythical artifact that only those with divine blood can awaken. Mord tells this to Kale. After soaking on the blood of Mord, the dagger turns into a bright dagger. Mord instructs the dagger to summon anti-magic, and then he throws the sword on the gate. As the dagger pierced the gate burst open and the dagger goes to Mord's hand. Kale was so surprised that Mord has bought this mythical artifact with just the price of 1 beer. Mord then tells Kale that it is his time to fulfill his wish of going inside a secret ancient dungeon. Kale deals with Mord that he will teach him his sheath skill, and return for that, Mord will take him to secret dungeons. The two of them then jumps inside the gate and founds themselves at a huge place. As the two of them were waking, a bunch of ghouls come rushing towards them. Behind this bunch of ghouls, the members of the returning monarch group are standing and they are getting ready to take out the intruders. Mord rushed towards them, defeating all the ghouls. Seeing Mord getting closer, the three of them attacks Mord with sword, but Mord blocks them with his aura gauntlet. Seeing Mord using aura, the three of them get scared as they didn't expect Mord to be a master rank. Mord pushed the swordsman away. Seeing this, magic unit starts to launch their attack, but at that time, Kale uses his wind spirit and makes the magicians fly away. The one magician that is still standing looks back and sees that Kale is waiting for him with his wind spirits and a sword on his hand. It didn't take much time for Kale to defeat the magician. He quickly subdues the mage and kills him by stabbing his sword. On the other hand, Mord has put an end to all the other warriors, the room's floor filled with the bodies and blood of the returning Monarch group members. Kale then shows Mord the direction of the gate. The two of them walks and gets in front of the gate. Mord uses the key and opens the huge gate. As the gate opens, dungeonization energy comes from it. Mord tells Kale that the Arch-Lich created this dungeon using demons so it reeks of demon smell, but it is not connected to the demon realm. In the novel, the information about this dungeon wasn't that detailed. So Mord only remember is that it's a building-like dungeon that goes underground, composed of a total of 9 floors, and the deeper you go, the stronger the undeads you encounter. It's not an easy dungeon, but it took Mord's party less than 10 minutes to defeat everything. Kale is very happy as he gets a ton of gold and expensive items. He carry the gold and all the item on a cart. And the both of them had made it to the boss room. As they walks in, that they see the Arch-Lich is sitting on the throne wearing bright red cloth. Seeing them, the Arch-Lich's eyes lit up, and it speaks up to them. Kale gets a bit nervous as the energy the Arch-Lich is emitting is very strong. That guy is just a fragment of his soul, much weaker than his original body. At best, he's as powerful as an apprentice magician. Mord said this. Hearing this, the Arch-Lich asked if he knew about him. "I've heard of a magician named Krex who used to be called Lord Arch-Lich in the past," Mord answered. Mord further says that he didn't know anything more about him, and he also didn't wish to know more as he is a being of the past that has been destroyed. Saying this, Mord awakens his divine blood. The Arch-Lich gets up from its throne and walks towards Mord. He tells Mord that as a Vernars who are remnant left by a earthly plane god are very arrogant, and that's why all of them had their demise in his hand. The Arch-Lich starts to cast a magic. It gathers fragments of ice and joins them to form 2 huge ice golems. Mord gets ready to fight. He jumps, and with a single punch, he shatters the ice golems. The Arch-Lich is mesmerized to see this. After finishing, the golems Mord rush towards the Arch-Lich and throws a punch at it. His punch gets blocked by the Arch-Lich's defense magic. At that time, Mord stabs the dagger on the Arch-Lich arm, and the Arch-Lich's permanent defense gets destroyed, as an Arch-Lich is entirely created by the power of black magic, so the dagger give a fatal blow to it as it has anti-magic. The Arch-Lich gets a huge shock, and the clothes of the Arch-Lich burns to ash. Mord then attacked the Lich with his mountain beaker. The attack lands on the Lich's shoulder and separates its head. Mord picks up the head and crashes it to powder. Mord releases his divine blood state and tells Kale thanks for accompanying him. Kale then asked Mord that, where is the core of this dungeon? As even after killing the Arch-Lich, the dungeon is not clear. Mord replied that the throne the Arch-Lich was sitting is the core. He then breaks the throne, and the world fragment comes out from it. This is the 4th world fragment that Mord has acquired successfully. After breaking the core, they return to the entrance of the dungeon, and just as it was described in the novel, the entrance of the dungeon was changed to a fake room. Kale gets surprised as he cannot find the cart where he put all the gold and magic items. Kale asked Mord if he know anything about this. Mord asked that it was a dream of chaos. Dream of chaos. It's a space composed solely of powerful information that blurs the boundaries between reality and dreams. Hence, everything was just an illusion. It's like virtual reality, where everything that happens inside feels real, but you can't bring out what has been manifested inside, like loot, into the real world. Seeing Kale so depressed, Mord tells him that as he has traveled with him for so long, he will properly compensate for it. Saying this, Mord punched the ground and it makes a hole in it. The two of them falls and lands on a secret floor. Kale gets surprised to see that there is a hidden room like this. At the front of the room, there are some quite expensive items, and seeing this, Kale gets super happy. Kale starts to inspect the items, and he sees an ordinary bag. so asked Mord that what an ordinary bag like this is doing here. Mord says that this is not an ordinary bag, rather it is a subspace bag, and it can hold up to 5 times the size of this room. It also lets you search for and find objects that were placed inside after etching your mark on it. Further, there's also a security feature preventing others from touching it if they're not the owner, and if it's within close range, the owner can use telekinesis to move it back to their hand. Kale gets amazed by hearing the features of the bag. Mord then gives the ring to Kale and says that it is the Ring of Lightning. It's an item that can be charged with the user's mana and allows them to cast lightning-based spells. It's even embedded with spells up to the 6th circle. Moreover, it can exhibit formidable defenses against lightning attacks. Kale gets extremely happy and thanks Mord for giving such an impressive item to him. Mord says that he is giving him what he deserves. Kale then asked Mord about the other item's uses. The necklace has a protective power against unauthorized magical interference and the ability to sense hidden magical energies. The golden key serves both as a physical key and as a map that can guide you to the place where it can be used. Mord tells all of this to Kale. Hearing this, Kale further questioned that if it's a key and a map, then could it be that there's a place with another piece of the Arch-Lich monarch? Mord replied yes. Kale gets curious and asked Mord that how many pieces does the Arch-Lich has. Mord replied that there are 7 pieces in total and they will be searching for all of them to prevent the resurrection of the Arch-Lich. Mord also says that this is one of the reasons and the other reason that this 7 pieces are also the key to the world fragments. Saying this, Mord points towards the skeleton head and tells Kale that this is on of the 7 pieces. In the novel, Aiden and his party were unaware of this fact. They ignored this skull and dismissed it as a mere decoration, and as a result, the Arch-Lich was able to fully resurrect. But now that's a tale of impossibility, as Mord crashes the skeleton with his punch. On the other hand, we can see the Archduke Vernard is eating the fruit, and this is the last one, so he asked his subordinate that if he thinks that the next person that will be buried here will Mord. The subordinate replied that it might be possible as the silver blood is officially on the move. While the world is teeming with secret organizations, those that have lasted for over 500 years are extremely rare, because it was during that time that marked the end of the world's myth and the beginning of the era of mortals. However, Silver Blood is an organization with a history of over 500 years. With the majority of its high-ranking members possessing the utmost power, being divine blood-bearers, it's the largest secret organization in the novel. The Archduke seems a bit interested to see that how much force the Silver Blood will send to capture Mord, as in the last time they get completely wiped away by Mord. After that, we can see that 2 people are tailing Mord. They had entered the underground dungeon while following Mord's track. By seeing the condition of the underground, the people gets impressed of Mord's power, and at the same time the 2 of them gets excited to battle with Mord. A few days has passed and Mord hasn't made a single step, so Kale asked him if he is going to give up. Mord replied that he is just kill the time. Mord is a bit puzzled as he had some gaps in the information he read in the novel. There have been many times where events were summarized as things happened roughly like this. Mord do remember the details vividly, but for some parts, like this dungeon, it was inevitable that he skipped over them in the story. While Mord is thinking this at that time, Kale speaks up and asked Mord that what he is going to do next. Hearing this, Mord blanks out and thinks that what he should do, as he has only 8 months left until the agreement he made with General Ilden. Mord don't have much time left, so he thinks that he should start by taking care of what he is sure of first without worrying about their movements. So he decides to go and free the cursed witch. Mord tells his plan to Kale and says that once they free the cursed witch, they will get an ancient sword. Hearing this, Kale asked him that how he know about this. Mord replied that he has a very excellent informant. Kale gets curious about the informant, so he requests Mord to tells him. Mord agrees to tells Kale. He tells him that the traces of the god embedded within him revealed a great prophecy that recorded the fate of this world. Hearing this, Kale gives an annoying expression and say that Mord is mean and dirty. Mord smiles hearing this from Kale. Mord knows that there is no meaning telling the truth to him, as he will never understand or believe it. But Mord also hopes that he could have at least a person that he can share all this stuffs. After that, the two of them starts their journey towards the cursed witch. A few days has passed. They have come in a remote mountainous region in the southeast of the Rutban Kingdom. The forest is all covered with a dense magic fog. Mord tells Kale that this is a magic fog that will make them disappear their sense of direction. As they were walking deeper, Kale shouts that if they are going towards the swamp, he tells Mord that there's an old legend in their village. It's the story of the witch of the swamp and the fog. The swamp is the place where the witch resides, a wicked being that uses the fog to capture and devour people. In their father's and grandfather's generation, there were a lot of disappearances, but in the last 5 years, people didn't venture deep inside, so there were hardly any disappearances. Mord, they says that the witch uses this fog to paralyze one's cognitive abilities and take control of your actions, making people do as she pleases. There's definitely a force attempting to interfere with my mind. Even though I look like this, I have excellent mental interference spells. Kale says this, and as he looks for Mord, he sees that Mord is not beside him. He gets that he has been affected by the fog. He starts to shout Mord's name, but there was no response. Kale starts to feel sleepy and is about to fall on the ground. Mord feels the absence of Kale, so he looks back and sees that Kale has lost his senses. He knew this could happen, so he beforehand charged the bracelet that he received from the wolf goddess. He wears the bracelet and goes towards Kale and grabs his hand and shouts, "Power of moonlight, protect my comrade!" As he shouts this, the bracelet starts to shine, and after a while a huge bright light comes from it and surrounds both of them. Kale then regains his senses and says, "That is this how the witch devour people?" Mord replies, no. Aine tells him that they should safely get out from this fog. Kale asked Mord that of the witch is the one that eats the humans. Mord replies to Kale that the forest itself poses a lot of danger. Humans die due to the monsters, or they could even die while foraging for herbs, drawn in by the magical properties of the plants. People going missing is something that constantly happens. In fact, not having any disappearances for 5 years is what's more unusual. Hearing this, Kale asked if the witch is actually a good being. Mord replied yes, and says that the witch is not a monster who catches and eats people. Mord tells that witch was the most beautiful woman of the Ilderva tribe. Not only men from her tribe, but also men from neighboring tribes swoon over her. Her beauty captivated a large number of people, and among them was a man from a divine clan. The man from the divine clan confidently expressed his feelings for her. The girl politely rejected him, and that's the beginning of the disaster that befell the girl. The powers that that man from the divine clan possess is akin to a natural disaster. His clan was a formidable force among the divine clans at that time, and he was of noble standing within that clan. However, he defied his clan's taboo and summoned a demon spirit. Gradually, he became consumed by the influence of that demon, descending into madness. Fearing that his clan would find out about this, as he would certainly face death, that man ran away to a place beyond their reach and met that girl. As his proposal got rejected, he attempted to forcibly take her, prompting the entire Ilderva tribe to stand against him. In response, the man from the divine clan got more enraged and annihilated the entire tribe, and thus, girl fell into the hands of the powerful man from the divine clan. In that moment, the sky split open, and the divine being Marius appeared. The man was discovered by their clan's king because of his excessive use of power. The man from the divine clan pleaded for forgiveness and mercy, having heard of everything. That happened, Marius imposed a punishment on the man. Marius also gets angry on the girl for allowing someone from his noble clan to commit such a heinous act. So he placed a curse on the girl that until the day the spirit of the demon within the sword is vanquished and ceases to exist, she will guard it, and only then her sins will be washed away. Mord tells this story and says that the witch is just a victim of God's tyranny. He then awakes his divine blood and shouts out loud, "Witch, I'm here to give you back your name!" As Mord shouts, an unknown entity responds to him. Then the area gets covered with an immense purple aura, which pushes them back. Mord uses his impulse ball on that creature. The creature with his two red eyes glares at Mord. Mord charges forward while dealing with the smoke-like aura and cancels it. The area in front of him becomes somewhat clear. According to Mord, the unknown creature is the witch, and he tells the witch to wake up from her dream. Kale seems surprised as Mord regarded this creature as the witch. Mord tells the witch that she never had a promise that she needs to keep. The witch says that she need to keep her promise. The witch thinks Mord as an intruder and enemy, so she attacks them. Mord and Kale dodges the attack. Kale asks Mord what kind of attack is this because he is feeling as if a whole army of mages is running attacks on them. Kale asks whether Mord has a plan to handle the witch. Mord replies saying of course. Mord conveys that he would beat that witch up before using the keyword to wake her up. By saying this, Mord jumps up and tells Kale to keep himself safe while he is gone. Mord moves forwards, piercing the aura in front of him. The witch is covered with a dark aura. Mord attacks the witch with an attack named Mirage Destruction. The witch screams while Mord speaks the name Ilderva and tells the witch that Ilderva is the name of her own kind that risked their lives and fought for her. Mord accumulates his mana on his leg and kicks the witch. The witch again screams. This time Mord speaks the name Calvis and says that Calvis is the name of the person who killed her family. Mord utters the name Mirius while attacking the witch. Mord reminds her that Mirius is the name of the god who cursed her. Mord concludes that there was never a promise that she needs to keep, it was just a curse put on her by the god Marius. Mord utters the word remember. He tells the witch to remember the things she must not forget for the sake of her kind that died unnecessary deaths and for her own sake while releasing another attack. In the next moment, Mord gets up on the witch's head and utters a name, Sada. He says that's the name given to the witch by her family on the day the sun shone the brightest. Lastly, Mord tells the witch to open her eyes as she is the glorious child of the sun spirit. Upon hearing this, tears came out from her eyes. Kale notices that the attacks have stopped. Both Mord and Kale witnesses the transformation of the witch. Kale smiles as he has always looked forward to a wonderful story like this instead of the cold and depressed military life in the White Demon realm. The witch transforms into a human as they seize a human leg in front of them. The witch tells Mord that saving a witch that was cursed by a god and helping her regain her beauty. He is the savior of an unknown god's blood as he has freed the witch from the evil god's curse. The witch asks politely how she can repay Mord for this and wants to know her savior's name. Both Mord and Kale perceives that the witch tribes were all giants. Mord introduces himself saying that he is Mord, a descendant bearing the blood of Vernard, the god of combat. The witch says that she has never heard of any god like that, but she says that she would consider him as a very wonderful god because Mord is also a good person. Mord replies that God Vernard earned his divinity when the age of the legends came to an end, so of course the witch wouldn't know about him. The witch questions Mord what he meant by saying that the age of legends is over. Mord replies that, yes, it is over, and it has already been 500 years since then. He says that an era began where gods can no longer manage the world, and the only thing that remains of that age is this fragment world which is Mord showing now. What is this? The witch eagerly asks. Mord answers that it's a piece of the perfect world. The ancient great gods used to create this world. When the Age of Legends came to an end, it was split up all over the world. Mord feels that this one's environment is a foggy swamp region. Night skies and high mountain combined with thick fog below that floats over the swamps. Mord says that now the 3 fused pieces of world fragments and the 2 individual world fragments have come together. Mord tries to talk with the witch about his repayment, but suddenly 3 intruders barged in. The leader of the group threatens Mord that they has come here to kill him. The 3 intruders tells Mord that will capture him today and bring him with them. The boss of the intruders sees the huge giant lady and asked Mord what is that thing. Mord didn't respond to his question, rather he asked them if they are from the silver blood. Hearing that Mord know about their identity, the intruder boss gets a bit surprised and questioned that how did he know about them as this is their very first meeting. Mord replied that he figures it out from the divine blood they possess. The intruder find it a bit strange, so he again asked Mord that how does he know where they are from just by seeing that they possess divine blood? The lady in their group says not to bother so much about it, as they will eventually know all the things when they captures him. As the two of the subordinates are about to rush towards Mord, their boss stops them and tells them to awaken their divine blood and go all out from the start. The red-haired boy disagrees and says that there is no need for that, and he also wants to have some fun. The boss gives an angry look and tells them not to underestimate it, as there might be other people beside them. Hearing this, the two of them didn't argue anymore and awaken their divine blood. The boss also awakens his divine blood and turns into a werewolf. He orders them to go and capture Mord without killing him. Mord sees their awakening and figures out that the boss is from the beast god lineage, and he cannot figure out the other two's lineage, as all the divine blood transformation is same, which turns one's hair to silver. On the other hand, Kale is scared to see that the three of them has divine blood. The lady is an intermediate officer in silver blood, a high-ranking mage of the 7th Circle who has abnormally excellent tracking abilities. However, in her awakened state, her magic power rises to that of the level of a first-tier mage. But for a mage to be able to unleash their full power, they need allies to cover them, and that person is the red-haired boy with the blue sword. Mord then orders Kale to get Sada out of here and then come back and join him. Kale refuses to go and tells Mord that even he is super strong, but going against 3 divine blood would be too much for him. Mord awakes his divine blood and shouts at Kale to quickly go away with Sada. As Mord awakens, the intruders gets impressed to see that a 15-year-old boy has this amount of mana. As Kale and Sada is about to leave at that time, the lady blocks their way and says to Kale that even though his stealth technique is good, but he cannot escape from her eye. Seeing that the escape route is blocked, Kale tells Mord that now they should fight them with their lives on the line. Mord replied to Kale that he will create an opening for them. So whatever it takes, they should quickly get out of here, as this is their problem, so they can't let Sada be involved in this. The red-haired man they uses an advanced impulse technique called the Impulse Edge and rushed to attack Mord with it, the two of them. Clashes, and a huge explosion occurs, and they gets covered in somke. As soon as the somke clears, Kale and the intruder boss gets super shocked to see that Mord uses his aura gauntlet and smashes the head of the red-haired boy and kills him in a spilt of seconds. The fighting between the two parties starts. Kale is barely holding himself against the lady using his wind magic. On the other hand, Mord has already killed one of the intruders, and now he up against with their boss. The werewolf says to Mord that he didn't expect that he could use aura, and so from now on he will treat him accordingly. Saying this, the werewolf starts to vibrate and radiating purple lightning from its body. Seeing this, Mord gets a bit nervous, and at that time the werewolf launched an attack on Mord. Mord blocks the attack with his arms, but the strength of the attack was so much that he was sent flying, and he hits the ground hard and cracks it. The werewolf didn't stop there. He again rushed towards Mord and launched an attack with his purple lightning. As the lightning hits Mord, a huge explosion occurs, and this time gets hurt, and he lays down on the ground. The werewolf then stands in front of him and says that they have formed this unit in a way that they would overwhelm him. Mord looks at the werewolf and thinks that he's stronger than he expected. Mana, size, physical prowess, and speed, he's ahead of him in all of those. Moreover, he also has an artifact. God's item, artifacts. When the mythic age ended and the gods departed from the mortal realm, artifacts disappeared from this world. However, those with divine blood, who can wield divine items to a high degree, can temporarily use artifacts with the permission of the gods. Seeing the surprised face of Mord, the werewolf laughs and says that he wonders how much he can hold up before the power of the gods. Mord is far behind in comparison of strength with the werewolf, so he decides to draw powers from the 3 merged world fragments, and on top of that, he will also use the war god's body blessing. As planned, Mord uses all of this, and his mana has rise to a whole new level. He attacks the werewolf's chin with all this mana. Getting hit on the chin, the werewolf flies away and spits blood from his mouth. Mord jumps in the sky and goes towards the werewolf, and as he is about to throw another punch at that time, the lady attacks Mord with her Skyfang technique. The attack lands on Mord's back, and he falls on the ground. He then looks back and sees that the werewolf and the lady has come together. Mord cannot understand why the lady is here, so he looks at Kale's side and sees that he is being chased by the reinforcements of the Silverblood. Mord is currently injured and is laying on his knees. At that time, the werewolf uses his artifact and rushes towards to finish Mord. As he is about to land an attack, he gets stopped by hearing the screams of the lady. As he turns back, he sees that the lady's leg is broken and is on fire. The giant lady is the one responsible for this. The giant says that she didn't interfere before because Mord didn't want her to. But she cannot just watch idly while her benefactor is getting beaten. She gets angry and looks at the lady angrily and uses her fire to surround them. Seeing the angry giant, the lady crawls on the ground out of fear. The giant stands up and said that we, the Ildervas, share divine power amongst ourselves. The more of us there are, the weaker we are individually. However, I am currently the sole lineage of the fire spirit. I'm the strongest I could ever be. By saying this, the giant lady starts to radiate intense fire, but as she walks forward, she feels a huge headache and falls on the ground. She is also unable to use her powers. Seeing her status, Mord understands the situation. The reason she cannot use her powers is because the Age of Legends has ended. Sada is now someone that should not exist here. For someone like that to use a god's power, she needs to pay with something, but now she has nothing to give in this moment. Mord then tells her that there is no need to push herself as he will be able to handle the boss. He also tells her to go and help Kale. Sada feels uneasy about it, but assures her that he will be enough to beat the werewolf. Mord seems to have a plan, as he seems confident that he can go against the werewolf. All divine bloods have their own unique traits. The unique traits given to those of God of Combat's bloodline is strength comparable to a weapon, and this man's trait is that his impulse is imbued with lightning. Its advantage is its great destructive power. As Mord is building up his power, the werewolf rushed towards him. Mord's attack is ready, and it's a new technique called the Thornbush Forest Keeper. The werewolf's power is a great match for the Thornbush Forest Keeper, which mixes with the opponent's impulse to lock their movements. As the attacks hit the werewolf, he became freeze, unable to move his body. Mord then goes towards the werewolf and starts to punch him. Mord is using a technique of the Vernards called the Void Breaker. This technique focuses the power of constant punching into one explosive punch. The werewolf gets confused as the punches of Mord is not affecting him, but after a while he feels that the power of all the punches is gathering in a single spot. As the powers gathers on a single spot, the werewolf bursts, and his flesh spread all over the ground. Mord emerge victorious in this intense fighting. On the other hand, Sada and Kale is fighting the reinforcement unit. The two of them had gathers all the unit members in the middle, and Sada uses her fire and surrounds them and burns them to ashes, and the rest of them were killed by Kale. Mord then walks towards the lady, and he also kills her. After the battle is over, Kale asked Mord that why did he kill the lady. Mord sassy that the higher-ups of the Silver Blood has bans. If they try to expose important information, the ban activates and turns them into enraged monsters. Hearing this, Kale says that he knew they were dangerous, but he didn't accept them to be so cruel. Mord then asked Kale if he was aware of the Silver Blood. We come across them sometimes in the White Demon realm. They're dangerous guys, so people like me in the higher ranks receive some basic information on them. Kale replied this to Mord. Mord understand it as the Vernards is also a very powerful family, and they have excellent informants, so it is a basic thing that they will know about the Silver Blood. Kale cannot get that, how Mord knows so much about the Silver Blood, so he asked Mord about this. I'm sure I've told you, it's because I was shown a great prophecy through the traces of the god left in me, Mord replied. Kale speaks up and says that no one will believe in this. At that time, Sada asked Mord that if some other divine power and the god of combat Vernard show you such prophecies. Mord replied yes. After that, Mord walks towards the corpse of the red-haired man, and he picks up the blue sword and gives it to Kale. Kale gets happy as this sword is better than his own. The three of them gathers all the corpses into one place, and Sada set fire on them. She said that she will also seal it, as if they burn the corpses here, they will be easily tracked down. Mord and Kale is amazed to see her godly powers, as they have never seen this before. After the sealing, Sada asked Mord that how can she repay him. Mord says that he wants to take the sword that she is protecting. Sada says that it is a cursed sword. Mord tells her that he already knew that, and he also know how to uncurse it. Sada asked him how. The reason that sword is dangerous is because of the soul of a strong demon within it. It's a weapon with its own consciousness, so it lures the owner with power to turn them insane. In the end, it pulls the owner into ruin. If so, then I just need to invade the sword with my own consciousness and get rid of the soul. Mord says this to Sada. Hearing this, Sada asked if it is possible to get rid of the demon in the sword. It wasn't back in the time when you were cursed. But after such a long time has passed, its consciousness should have weakened, Mord replies. Mord then thinks in this mind that it's actually a proven method. Aiden got rid of the curse in the very same way. Plus, during the battle, he felt that the second level of the divine blood opening isn't something that he can reach through training or talent. He did observe Kessner and Ilden since they've reached that level, but this battle has made it clear. He need to accomplish something great. What a human needs in order to become a god is an achievement great enough to be recorded as a legend. Proving yourself worthy is the only way to reach that realm. Only a meaningful battle and victory will bring light and glory to the divine power one possess. Mord had gotten closer to that realm with the battle today. He obtained a meaningful victory against 3 people of divine bloodlines, and ones that had reached the second level at that, and now Mord decides to kill Vikalos, the one who brought the entire giant race to ruin in the blink of an eye. Upon kill, Mord will take one step forward to be even closer to the second level. Mord then tells Sada to put his consciousness into the sword. As Mord's wish, Sada puts Mord consciousness in the sword. After that, Mord finds himself on a desert. He then shouts out loud and says to Vikalos that he has come for him and tells him to show himself. Vikalos hears the words of Mord and he gets happy as he thinks that he can finally escape from here. Vikalos then reaches hand towards Mord and tells him to sign a contract with him, and he can provide him with powers that will let him dominate the whole world. Mirius, the king that rules over the countless gods, he sacrificed his own bloodline to create a sword. The sword was meant to be a vessel to seal Vikalos. Vikalos was such a powerful being that even Mirius would have struggled to defeat him, so sealing Vikalos was a great feat for Mirius. So as now Mord has come to him, he wants to possess Mord and take his physical body back. After that, he will kill Mirius, who sealed him here, and later he will establish himself as this world's demon king once again. But Mord knew about the plan of Vikalos, so he rejected his tempting offer, saying that his plan of gaining his physical body will not be accomplished as the body of his no longer exists. Hearing this, Vikalos asked Mord that what he means by that. Mord says to him that after Mirius sealed him here, both the demon realm and the world were faced with great changes, and his empty body was devoured by the other demons. Mord further says that he is just a soul without a body, and a soul that has been far from its body is bound to disappear. In other words, he is going to die sooner. Hearing this, Vikalos gets furious and throws a tantrum. He threatens Mord for tells such a nonsensical lie to him. Mord swears on his life that he is speaking the truth. Vikalos didn't believe on him, and asked that if he know that swearing and lying in front of the demon king means death. Mord replied that he know about this. Hearing this, Vikalos tells that he is arrogant and he will regret this. After that, Vikalos casts some sort of spell. A grim reaper appeared behind Mord, and his neck, hands, and legs were tied up with a chain. Vikalos then again asked Mord to tell the truth. Mord again repeats that Vikalos' body is gone. After that, Vikalos begins to witness the scene, and he sees that tons of demons is fisting on his body. Seeing this, Vikalos breaks down and fall on his knees. Mord walks towards him and asks that, how did he feel witness the truth? Vikalos, it is amazing that he was able to protect his psyche for thousands of years, but once he realized that his body no longer existed in the world, his mind was completely broken by the shock. Mord grows huge, and now Vikalos is like an ant in front of him. He then crashes Vikalos with his feet and kills him, as Mord successfully uncursed the demon sword. Kale takes the sword in his hand and gets very excited. He wishes to take the sword to see. Asked Mord that what is he gonna do with him? Kale thought that Mord would give it to him, but Mord's reply breaks his heart as Mord tells him that there is someone who is the rightful owner of that sword. Mord takes the sword and puts it inside the subspace bag. Kale asked about the identity of the rightful owner. Mord replies that he won't know even if he tells him, and he also tells Kale to stop his greed as he just received a nice sword. Mord then asked Sada that what she will do now. Sada replies that she is not sure as she is a being that should not be here. She also don't know when she might die. Plus, she has nowhere to go, and no chance for revenge. As Sada was about to speak further, Mord stops her and says that there is a chance for her to get her revenge as Mirius exists in this world as a member of the Silver Blood. Hearing this, she gets shocked and asked, "How is this possible? He'll look much different than what you remember as it seems." Lot of things happened between your sealing and the end of the Age of Legends. Mord tells this to her. She understands what Mord said, and she tells that if he still exists in this world, then there is a reason for her to be here too. But as this world denies her existence, so she have no choice but to seal herself until the time comes. She tell Mord that she will be sealed once she enter this door. She requests Mord to hold on to the key of the seal for her. Mord and Kale seems a bit confused. Sada tells them she has become the strongest witch of her kind, and she is sure that she can kill a god. But there is no point to such power if she die before she can even use it. So she requests Mord that the moment he enter a fight against Mirius, he should undo her seal and allow her to get her revenge. Hearing this, Mord asked her if she is sure of it. Sada replied that yes, getting her reply, Mord promises her that he will make this happen no matter what. On the Silver Blood Castle, we can see Mirius is enjoying his wine and laughing. Seeing this, his subordinate come and asked for the reason of his laughter. Mirius replied that he felt his power be set free, and it's been a very long time since he felt that. In a place covered in swamps and fog, there were still traces of your power in this world. Then why did you leave it be instead of retrieving it? His subordinate asked. Mirius tells him that he might have died if he tried to retrieve it. So he had planned to retrieve the sword and the fragment once he had recovered some more. But it seems like someone has done the work for him. Hearing this, his subordinate asked, "Isn't that a loss then?" He replied, "No," and says that he is rather thankful as now when he goes to retrieve his sword, he can avoid seeing someone he didn't want to see. Mirius then takes a sip of his wine and says that he intends to give that person a reward. On the other side, as Sada is sealed in the gate, Mord and Kale goes somewhere, and there Mord smashed a mountain cave, and as they entered there, they see a golden chest. As Mord opens it, they found some items in it. Kale asked Mord about this, and he replied that these are the 6 relics left behind by a great mage from ancient times. Mord then takes a red bracelet and gives it to Kale. He further tells Kale that this bracelet will help him summon a fire spirit, and he should be able to control it as he can use fire magic. Kale seems surprised, so he asked Mord that if it is possible. Mord replies that it's a relic made by a great mage who possessed divine powers, and a god's authority can make the impossible possible. Mord gives this bracelet to Kale as he sees him as reliable teammate, so he wants him to grow into a strong mage who can control both wind and fire spirits. Kale then asked Mord that what is he going to do with the rest. Mord replies that he has already thought whom he will give them to, and he taking the ring which function is to lets the owner detect ambushes and other sudden dangers and activates a power of protection. He will also take the bracelet that will let him store some mana for later. After that, the two of them goes to a restaurant, and they were eating and talking to each other. At that time, a waiter comes to them and asks them if they are mercenaries. Mord asks the waiter whether he needs a mercenary. The waiter thinks that he should be honest with them and shares a story of an incident. The waiter shares that about 2 weeks ago, ogres started appearing around town. He says that ogres are creatures which are too terrifying for humans to face, and he has heard a lot about them. But he saw one for the very first time in his life. Fortunately, his village has some pretty good fighters, and they managed to push one back. But that wasn't the end, though. The ogre's invasions continued, and as the number of casualties gradually increased, the town became gripped with fear. But then, 3 days ago, a man showed up. The moment that man heard of our town's plight, he gladly offered to help, and slaughtered all of the monsters around the town within a single day. Even the ogres that appeared again were slashed by his sword. Wait a minute, a sword? Mord thinks deeply. Lastly, the waiter informs Mord that the man he was talking about set out in the morning to slay monsters again, but perhaps due to an unexpected situation, he didn't return until evening. Mord asks the waiter about that guy's appearance. The waiter recalls that the man had a muscular body like Mord, and that his light brown hair was tied at the back, and he even used a huge double-handed greatsword. Mord predicts that the waiter must be talking about Leon Vernard, so he decides to venture there to see in his own eyes. Mord and Kale arrive at their destination and see lots of demon corpses lying on the ground. Kale wonders who is this town's hero who is killing all the ogres and demon and assumes that he must be someone from the Vernard's bloodline, but Kale says that he has one confusion. If the person is a Vernard's, then why he would a sword and a long one at that, he wonders. Mord replies that there is law saying that all the Vernards should fight barehanded, and he adds that the man must be trying to hide his lineage. Mord remembers that in the novel, Leon said to Aiden that during his journey to a rural territory, as he stopped approaching danger, he coincidentally stumbled into the ruins where he's said to have received the god of combat's legacy. And according to Mord, it seems like now's the time for that to happen after all. Mord says that he has arrived to the place. Kale replies that the thing that is happening in this place right now must be demonification, but the entrance seems strange to him. Mord replies that the ground probably collapsed due to some shock like an earthquake. So the ruins inside were exposed to the outside, and then he stands at the entrance and says that this is the point where the demonification occurs, and the dungeon weakens. Mord has no idea about the whereabouts or timings for entering the ruins, but he finds himself lucky, because he will get to meet Leon Vernars here. Inside that place, Vernars is seen to be in his knees. One of the monster praises Leon that he is amazing and damn strong with only his bare hand, but he asks Leon why he is using that sword even though he can't use this, probably. Leon, who is now in his divine blood awakened mode, questions the monster. What's the point of him asking that? Leon thinks that these guys are way too strong. Not only is each one of them at the level of a high-ranking undead, judging from their similar combat skills, it's a guarantee that these ashes are from Vernard's bloodline. The monster says that he is ready for another round. The monster is using a technique similar to the Vernards to attack Leon. Suddenly, Mord makes an outstanding entry, breaking his skeletons into pieces. One of the monster asks Mord to introduce himself. The other monster regenerates himself. Mord doesn't find any reason for why he would tell them his identity. The monsters thinks that Mord is looking down on them and they decide to deal with Mord first. The monsters appears right in front of Mord in a matter of seconds. Mord quickly uses his aura gauntlet along with mirage destruction to damage all the skeletons in one go, and lastly he finishes them off with his 3 impulse balls. Mord didn't even have to use his divine blood to deal with the monsters. One of Skulls, who is still alive, says that he is Count Wirgun of the Demon Delm, and he would never forget the shame Mord brought upon his tribes. The monster couldn't finish his words because Mord smashes his skull into 2 pieces. Leon wonders who is that monster of a man that can defeat the monsters without opening his divine blood. Mr. Leon Vernars, why are you here? Kale asks. Leon slides back while asking whether they are Vernars. Leon says that he would not go to the main residence. Mord thinks that Leon Vernars used to be the 5th of the Vernars' successor candidates. But 5 years ago, he gave up on the competition and left the family. And in the novel, he met Aiden after leaving and became a dependable ally to him. Mord answers that he is here just because the village people asked him to look for Leon. Leon tells that he can hardly believe Mord's word. Mord replies that it pisses him off when somebody doesn't believe their savior's word. Then, Mord reminds Leon that he is not in the state to deal with the demonification all by himself because of his injury. Kale tries to ensure Leon by telling him that he recognized Leon just because he has seen him before, as he is an advanced warrior. Advanced warrior? How can a little kid like him be on the same rank as me? Leon thinks. Kale introduces himself to Leon and says that he is from the Gatekeeper Legion affiliated with General Ilden, and adds that the Vernars doesn't care about Leon, so they won't pry on his privacy. Leon understands the situation and tells thanks to Mord for saving his life. In the novel, it was said Leon was arrogant and gloomy, but in reality he is kinda different, Mord perceives. In the novel, it is said that Leon Vernars, from a young age, he had always been compared to his talented brothers, plus he lacked support from the family. As he grew older, there were less opportunities for him, and when his mother died from an illness, he was freed from all the ties to the family. He left the main residence and wandered around the continent. Meanwhile, he obtained an inheritance of the god of combat in the ruins. This allowed him to grow as strong as his other brothers, through the help of other advanced items and God's blessing. 5 years from now, he will meet Aiden. Aiden will see potential in Leon and will convince him to jump into the successor competition. Then, with Aiden's full support, he will take the Archduke position. At the same time, he would also pass over every world fragment to Aiden, fully believing that his savior would protect the world from evil. But at the end, that trust would be completely destroyed. Mord ordered Kale to escort Leon outside and provides him with a healing potion for Leon. Leon questions Mord why aren't they taking him into the demonification raid. Mord replies that it's better not to take an injured person in the raid. Leon tries to ensure them that he can still fight, but Mord refuses, saying that he would just get in the way. Do you want to be a hindrance to the same people that saved your life, just for the sake of your own ego? Mord questions. By hearing this, Leon realizes his mistake and tells them sorry for his stubbornness. Kale asks Mord whether he would continue on his own. Mord replies by saying yes, and tells Kale to put a wind spirit on Mord to find his location. Mord thinks that Leon fell into a trap here, and fell into the ruins underground. That's how he was able to obtain the god of combat's inheritance. So how will I find it? Mord wonders. Mord guesses that he would be able to find it if he destroys this whole place. Mord destroys the place, and arrives at a place where historic books are kept. The book which Mord is looking at right now is about the research and development of combat techniques, and these are all things left behind by the Vernars. Mord decides to take some books as he already had a bag with him. He finds a box which he remembered can only be opened by Vernar's bloodline, and this is where the god of combat's inheritance is. He opens that box and sees a world fragment on it. He thinks that this is the 8-1 that he acquired. He finds a stone plaque which he assumes was used to summon the god of combat in the novel. As he touches the stone plaque, Mord feels a strange aura covering him. Mord smiles because by only touching the stone plaque, it fills him with the desire to fight. It's definitely not a normal stone plaque. Mord conceives, and he is sure it's an object that offers the same experiences as the god of combat's grave. Mord looks at something and says that this is the god of combat's inheritance that helped Leon overcome his lack of talent. He says the word dragon, a mythical creature that no longer exists. And the object that was created using the head dragon that was hunted by the god of combat was a belt named the god of combat's belt. Kale arrives at that area and asks Mord whether this belt is a magical item. Mord replies that it's apparently an ancient relic made from dragon leather. Mord wears the belt, and Kale thinks that Mord is sharp for not letting Leon see this item. Outside that area, Leon is sitting under a tree and thinks that he is powerless, and suddenly he feels that somebody is approaching him. Mord and Kale meets Leon. Kale tells Leon that they didn't find any demons inside, and Mord asks Leon how is he feeling. Leon replies by saying that he is fine thanks to them. Leon asks for Mord's name. Mord introduces himself by saying that he is Mord Vernars from the outside lineage. Leon remembers that there was no Mord in the direct bloodline, so he must be from the outside. Then, Leon asks for Mord's age. Mord answers that he is 15. By hearing this, Leon gets totally shocked. Mord wants to leave this area and tells Leon that they should go, and Leon must take rest and eat well since he has opened his divine blood. Mord says that they have to stay here for a couple of days and then leave this area. Leon questions where are they going. Mord replies saying that it doesn't matter where he is going. Then Leon asks Mord whether he is going somewhere related to the family. Mord answers by saying no. Then can I come with you? Mord asks desperately. Mord asks Leon to state his reasons for saying this, but Leon cannot explain his reasons at first. Mord gets angry and says that he would give Leon 1 day to think about it, and he tells Leon that he would decide after hearing Leon's decision. Kale invites Leon to come with them to have dinner. They arrive at the restaurant. That night, the lord of the village asked us if there was anything we wanted as a reward for preventing the demonification of the village. Kale asked for some money, and Leon asked for a new sword to replace his broken one, and Mord asked for a large space completely isolated from the outside world. Mord is currently in his divine blood awakened form, and he provides some of his blood to the stone plaque that he received recently. Mord assumes that he entered into his mind realm, but the location isn't specific this time. Ha ha ha! What a great view! It's a great place to beat someone to a pulp! Mord turns around and sees that the god of combat is saying these things. The god of combat greets his descendant. Mord sees that the god of combat is the same being as last time. Vernard, the god of combat, explains that he looks the same because he is a remnant of the god of combat, not some illusion or copy. The authority of the god of combat in the heavens is still linked with him. Vernard notices that Mord has gotten stronger from the last time, so he tells Mord to get ready for his last lesson. Mord tells Vernard that before starting he has 2 questions. Firstly, why are you smaller than your descendants? Secondly, does someone of the god of combat bloodline realizing more than a certain amount of potential lead to any side effects? Mord asks these 2 questions. Mord told the god of combat how the Vernard's family has changed and what kind of things the Archduke is doing right now to stop aging. By hearing these, the god of combat was very displeased. Mord says that the Archduke is strong enough to be called the incarnation of the god of combat. From what he knows, the Archduke has reached level 4 divine blood opening, but he's aged very quickly ever since. Vernard explains that it's possible if other blood is mixed in, considering the height thing. Since the family is more than 400 years old, he is sure various kinds of other bloodlines are mixed in. There are those among the giants who are strong but have short lifespans. Mord thinks the reason the Archduke aged so fast wasn't revealed in the novel, and if it was an issue of other bloodlines, then it makes sense. As Mord was thinking about these matters, suddenly the 10-year-old Vernard arrives. As the 10-year-old Vernard arrives, he tells Mord that he was feeling down after losing to him in the last time, so now he wants to have a go with him with all of his strength. Mord also agrees to fight with him. Getting the confirmation from Mord, Vernard awakens his divine blood, and by seeing him, Mord also does the same. Mord also feels that there is a different kind of power in the young Vernard's divine blood power. Vernard is a demigod born to the god of the heavens, Arita, and a human woman. He made the divine blood he inherited from his father completely his own, and became a divine being through his own accomplishments. What Mord use is Vernard's divine blood, but what the young Vernard is using is the Arita's divine blood. The power of Arita is definitely different from Vernard's, but for some reason Mord feels this power quite familiar. The young Vernard rushed towards Mord and beat the shit out of him. The young Vernard says that it's been 5 months they have last fought, and in this, he has learned aura. He then smiles and says that he is quite late, as he had already learned aura when he was 12 years old, so now he will show him the next level that he will need to attain. By saying this, the young Vernard starts to emit aura, but one word from Mord made him shocked. Mord tells him that if he is taking about aura accelerator, a skill in which you mobilize highly concentrated aura and accelerate it at the perfect moment to produce overwhelming destructive power. Mord gets up and starts to perform the aura accelerator technique. Seeing Mord performing this, the young Vernard gets surprised. Mord has practiced this technique countless times in his mind, realm, but this is the chance for him to test the technique in a real-life combat. Mord accelerates at a lightning speed towards the young Vernard. The young Vernard didn't get a chance to move, and the attacks hits him directly. As the attack lands, the body of the young Vernars gets shattered into pieces, and by seeing this, Mord gets shocked. Mord then asked the old Vernars that if he really win this easily. The old Vernars replied yes, and says that he also didn't expect this. Mord tells him that he is not satisfied and wants a more challenging battle. The old man then calls his 23-years-old self and tells Mord to fight him as he will not be disappointed. A big young guy with long dark hair appears and says hello to Mord and tells him that he will make up for his past self. The man has dark hair, but his eyes are a transparent silver that's proof that he's made most of his father Arita's divine blood his own, and he hasn't even opened his divine blood nor his mana, but it's already at Mord's level. In other words, this guy is a monster, and the real lesson for Mord begins here. The fight between them starts, and they have already fought 500 battles. In this 500 rounds, Mord has not even touched the Vernar's body. After fighting this long, the skills of Mord has risen drastically, and after 500 rounds, Mord is able to lay a simple hit on the man's face. On the other hand, Mord is completely covered in wounds and blood is all over him. The Vernars praises Mord for landing a hit on him as he was at his full power and was taking the battle seriously. Even if Mord's body recovers, but the mental damage is still there. Plus, the more he fights, the more he can really feel what kind of a monster he is. Mord gets furious and wants to punch this man's face more. At that time, Mord feels a bit shaky and he slightly hears that someone has called his name. The Vernars then ask the old man that how much time is there for them. About 100 more times. The descendant has collected more world fragments, so we have more time. Since the fragments are taking on the bulk of the power, there is less of a toll on us for using authority from the heavens. Plus, with how fast he's improving, you might have to open your divine blood. Soon, the old Vernars said this. The young one says that he didn't think that Mord has improved that much, and he also feels like Mord is reaching his maximum limit. After the small talk, the fight between them starts again. Rounds are rising up, but Mord is able to land a clear hit. Currently, it's 610th round, and the Vernars is beating Mord to his death. He throws Mord to the huge rock where the old man was standing. The rock shatters, and the old man gets down. The young Vernars then teases the old man and says that he didn't need to awaken his divine blood. On the other hand, Mord is on the verge of losing his mind. Mord was going deep into his consciousness, and is about to lose himself in there. With the rising of mental exhaustion, Mord feels that something is boiling inside him. At that time, he hears a voice which says him to leave it. Mord opens his eyes and sees a spiral of white clouds, and from this clouds emerges a divine entity. The divine being tells Mord to stop thinking so much and leave it to his instincts. In the meantime, the two Vernarzos arguing with each other, and the old man feels something has changed in Mord, and he tells the young one to get ready as the battle is not over yet. Mord gets up and is emitting huge amount of force. The young Vernars also feels the changes in Mord. Mord then rushes towards him. Seeing this, the Vernars gets tensed and awakens his divine blood. Mord gets closer to him and lands a solid him. But due to the man's divine blood, he minimized the damage and survives the powerful hit. But Mord didn't stop there. He jumps towards the man with a more powerful attack. As the attack lands, a huge explosion occurs, creating huge dust smoke. The man successfully dodged the attack, and if he didn't dodged it, Ao would be a goner. The smokes rise up in the sky and takes a spiral shape. Mord is completely drained out and is laying on the ground. Mord is also confused as he didn't know what he'd just do. At that time, the old Vernars comes towards him clapping his hands and congratulates Mord for awaking the divine blood of Arita. Mord asked him if this is the power of the God of Heaven. Yes, your instincts understood that this power was within you. Don't forget that feeling. It may have just opened its eyes, but when you finally manifested its true powers, and when it forms a balance with the power you have from me, you'll realize what it's like to have two divine powers within you, the old Vernars says. Mord also gets that maintaining balance is important, as this power from Arita is divine authority. It's strong, but it has the possibility of swallowing the human mind. Mord need to have the god of combat's power be the basis so that he can utilize this power without his mind being shredded to nothing. As the time is running out, the old Vernars blessed Mord with divine physique for winning against his old self. After that, the old man tells Mord that he will look forward to their next meeting, and he is curious to see how much he will have mastered Arita's power by then. After that, the old man bid farewell to his descendant, and this is how the meeting between the descendant and the ancestor ends. As Mord gets out, he sees that Leon is waiting for him. Leon is serious and tells Mord that he wants to talk with him. He tells Mord that in order to explain why he want to come along with him on his travels, he need to first explain why he left the family. Saying this, Leon starts his story. My father was part of the direct lineage, but he ended up passing away in a battle against feudal lord-ranked demons. My mother's side of the family did not have enough influence or power to compensate for the loss of my father. The people who had supported us began leaving our side one by one, and others began harassing us through indirect means. Back when I was a trainee, it was much more common to request a god of combat spirit in situations where an instructor would push harder on one candidate. The more we were harassed, the more pressure I received from my mother's side of the family to become the best. But compared to the other successors, I lacked talent. I was considered gifted growing up. But when I became an official warrior, I was faced with a harsh reality. The reality was that if I was gifted, then the others were geniuses. Amongst them, I suffocated from the pressure and comparisons. But what was harder to deal with was the words that would come from my mother's side of the family, and especially those from my mother herself. My mother used to try to brainwash me daily that I would become the best. But as time went on, she became more hysterical. Each time I proved not good enough for her, she was violent with me. Of course, it didn't hurt since my body was hardened, but my mind was torn to shreds each time by the pain. I always wanted to run away, but Arna was there for me. However, Arna then started to show the potential of a genius, and people began to compare us more and more. In the end, I could not look at Arna and smile. I began seeing her as a threat. I hated myself for that. That is when I decided to leave the family. Even when my mother was dying from her illness, she glared at me with demon-like eyes and cursed me with her hurtful words. Seeing her was hell for me. When she passed away, I felt freed. On the day of her funeral, I left the family. In a world away from the Vernars, I felt free and strong once again, but I realized that was all an illusion. I had just been lucky enough to come across enemies that were weaker than me. In the last 5 years, I had never tested my limits. I felt powerless. I learned that only when I was on the brink of death. But in that moment, you appeared, Mord. As if the world was giving me one more chance, I felt that it was some kind of fate, so I want to come with you and find out exactly what it was that I felt. Leon says all of this, Mord. Mord hears all of this patiently and asks Leon if he is done with all of his story. Leon gets nervous and replies Mord that he is done. Getting the reply from Leon, Mord warns him that this journey will be a lot more dangerous than he thinks, as an organization called the Blood of Silver is after him, hearing the name of the Blood of Sliver. Leon gets shocked. Seeing his shocked face, Mord asked him that if he know about this organization. Leon replied that he has heard of them when he was working as a mercenary. Their forces are as strong as the Vernars. We don't know when we might come across them, so think about that and decide. Mord tells this to Leon. Leon didn't show an ounce of hesitation and tells Mord that he will go with him, as he can be a help to them when they fight with those guys. After thinking for a while, Mord tells Leon that he can come with them. Kale was hearing all of this, and after Mord's decision, he questioned Mord that it might cause some problem if he take him with them to the north. Mord replies that's not his problem. Leon gets happy, and he ensures Kale that there will be no problem as he has already left the family succession competition. He also tells Kale to not address him so formally as he is not a part of the family. Kale puts a smile on his face and agrees with him. Mord then tells him to go to their rooms and take rest as they will be leaving tomorrow. Kale asked him about their destination. Mord replies, the Midwestern region of Lutven Kingdom. We're going to Palace County. Then, in the next morning, we can see Mord and the other two as arrived at the Palos country. They are passing through a busy market, and from there, Leon has bought many tools and weapons. Kale then asked him the reason for this. Leon replied that he wants to hide his identity, and that's why he has brought all this armors and a long sword. Kale says that if it was really necessary, as Mord is here, I'm just preparing in advance in case we get involved with familial matters someday. Plus, I'm used to a sword because it's what I used after leaving the family, Leon said. Hearing this, Kale now understands the reason why Leon is so weak in close combat. He has sparred with Mord so many times, but every time he gets defeated, without landing any fatal blow. The two of them starts fighting and Mord stops them and tells Kale to go and find a way to the black market. Hearing that Mord is willing to go to the black market, Kale gets happy as he thinks that he will receive new items from here. Leon raises him hand, tells Mord that he knows a way that will take them to the bulk market. They then goes to the black market, and from there Mord buy a few things. Leon asked Mord that if he has come so far to buy this lowly items. Mord replies that the items he bought are valuable, and he then tells Leon to drop his blood on a weird object. Leon gets confused and asked Mord that, what is the reason behind this? Mord tells him to stop all the questioning and just do what he told. Leon then makes a small cut on his fingertip and drops blood on the object. As the blood comes in contact to the object starts to glow up and it turns into a glove. Seeing this, Kale and Leon get surprised and asked Mord, what is this? It's a relic called Stone Giant's Gloves that can only be used by those with divine blood. It uses divine blood, not mana, so you need to feed it your blood regularly for it to function. It's great as a defense item, and if its skill is activated, it'll temporarily amplify your power, as much as the legendary Stone Giants. Mord tells this to Leon. As strong as a stone giant? That's ridiculously strong. You're really giving me this? Leon questioned. Mord answered yes and hand over the item to him. The next item that Mord bought is a pair of earrings. The function of the earring is that the ancient spirit inside will warn you of danger, and when it's activated during battle, it'll heighten your senses. Mord awakens his divine blood and activates the earrings and give them to Kale, which makes Kale super happy. Kale then asked Mord about the last item that he bought. Mord tells that the last item he bought is the sequel of the item that he bought from the previous black market. Mord then takes out the two items from his subspace bag. As he puts the two items side by side, the item starts to merge and turns into a complete book. Mord takes the book and opens it and sees that a map has appeared in the pages. After looking at map thoroughly, he puts the book back into his bag. He then asked Leon if he knows about an information broker. Hearing this, Kale gets excited and says that he will ask about it at the back alley folks. Kale also asked Mord that who is he looking for. Mord replies that he is looking for Aiden, who is a mercenary mage who's about 15 or 16. Later on, we can see Mord and the other are heading towards a dungeon. While going, Leon asked Mord about Aiden. Mord replies that Aiden is someone with divine blood who is also enemies with the blood of silver. Which kind of divine blood? Leon asked. A god that is said to appear as an old hermit to aid others who are in need of wisdom, god of forest and wisdom, Magenta. A divine blood perfect for becoming a mage, Mord replied. He then starts to recall the storyline of the novel. According to the Stroy these days, it is very hard to come across someone who has inherited his divine blood, and most of them work in the magic field. But of those, Aiden is the only one who managed to awaken the power of the divine blood. There's a reason Aiden was called a genius mage. Of course, that monstrous talent was only possible because of his sister's sacrifice. Aiden's older sister grew up listening to the voices of the god's power within her. When the blood of silver ambushed Aiden's family, she sacrificed herself in order to save Aiden and awakened her divine power, and she turned that power into a blessing to give to Aiden and died. As a result, Aiden felt his dormant divine blood awaken, and Aiden began working as a mercenary in Palace, slowly making a name for himself despite his young age. As Mord is walking as thinking all of this at that time, Kale asked Mord that what he is going to do when he finds Aiden. Mord replied that he don't have any immediate plan. After walking for a while, the three of them has come near a waterfall. Mord looks at the waterfall and tells that the dungeon is here. Saying this, he jumps. According to the real Stroy in the near future, Aiden will find his first world fragment here, as well as detailed records about the world fragments. and those were his first steps to becoming the mage that dominated the world. Mord then thinks that, how will Aiden's fate change if he take those things before he does? As Mord falls, he moves closer to the waterfall, and at some point he pierced the waterfall and founds a cave. The three of them then gets inside the cave. Kale is amazed to see that there is a dungeon behind the waterfall. Leon is also amazed, but he is a bit curious that how Mord knows about this place, so he directly asked Mord. But Mord didn't answer him and ignores. Kale explains Leon that Mord is like this. He then asked Mord about the type of this dungeon. Mord replied that it's not a difficult one, so there is no need to worry. As they gets deep inside, they comes to a strange place that has big statues and has strange patterns drawn on the floor. Mord says that this dungeon is actually made up of riddles and traps and known as a ruined Tio dungeon. Kale gets angry as he is really bad at solving riddles. Mord reassures Kale by saying that he knows a quicker way to complete this dungeon as he lands on a trap as a result. The mummy-like soldiers wake up and started throwing their spears at Mord. Mord accumulates mana in his hand and destroy the spears. He tells Kale that they just needs to destroy the riddle. Leon says that he knows a little when it comes to dungeons like these, but somehow he feels that Mord's way of clearing the dungeon is crazier than it looks. As they venture deeper, they come across a gargoyle. Kale asks what kind of room is this going to be. Leon replies that it really doesn't matter as Mord is destroying each and every room they've entered until now. A trap appears in front of them where they have to guess the right picture. As they were looking into it, Mord tells them to move away and breaks the traps. As a result, around 50 of gargoyles appears. Leon says that if it's just gargoyles, then they should be fine, but suddenly the door changes, and from it a stone golem appears. Mord rushes forward at the golem as he tells Kale and Leon to take care of the rest. Mord breaks the left hand of the stone golem. After breaking it, he sees a red core and wonders what's that. As he was thinking, the golem restores his hand. Mord conceives that the power of magic in this room is amplifying the stone golem's power. Then, he thinks that if he doesn't destroy that core of the golem, maybe the golem will keep restoring itself. And Gargoyle charges an attack in his mouth and releases at Leon. Leon dodges it and rushes forward with his new long sword. Leon feels annoyed by the gargoyle. Kale suggests Leon to first with his bare hands while he orders his spirits to help them by preventing the gargoyles from flying. The spirits binds the gargoyles and uses a lighting sword and cuts the gargoyles into pieces. On the contrary, Mord is using his aura's second-level realm known as Aura Accelerator to completely destroy the golem and successfully destroys its core. Goodness, he destroyed that giant golem just like that? Leon thinks as he can't fathom what's happening right now. Leon says that he has seen a lot of geniuses, but this person, Mord, is a monster. Mord turns and asks Leon whether he has done his job yet. Leon drops his sword and tells Mord to wait a bit, and he will make it over quickly, and finally he uses his fists as he destroys tons of the gargoyles in a matter of seconds. Kale watches Leon annihilating the gargoyles and thinks that Leon must use his fists from now on, as Leon is much better in fists than any sword. Finally, they arrive at the boss room. As they enters, they see that the room is empty. They hear an unknown voice telling them challengers and commends them for reaching this point. The voice says that the person only with courage and wisdom can reach this room. Wisdom and courage? Leon and Kale thinks that Mord used none to come up to this point. Only those who are qualified should possess a great god's power. You have proven yourselves worthy, so it's time for your reward. The voice speaks, and out of nowhere a box and a stone slate appears. The stone slate contains some ancient writing which they have never seen before. Mord recognizes that this is a stone slate with very detailed explanations of the world fragments. This was a changing point for Aiden's life and decides to destroy it so that Aiden doesn't get to see it. Kale asks Mord why he is destroying it. Mord replies that he felt a strange sense of danger. Mord opens up the box from which the world fragments comes out, and Mord collects it. Kale questions Mord as he wants to know why Mord is collecting fragments. Mord answers that he is doing this in order to save the world. Mord feels a slight change in his body, and this time feels like quite a big change. Mord thinks that the world fragments not only bring forth the owner's power, but also changes the owner, and with more time, the owner absorbs the world, fragments power, and becomes stronger. This fragment is like a cliff with a giant boulder placed on the edge. The three chunks that Mord previously had combined with it to become one. Mord finishes his job. "What do you mean by saving the world?" Leon asks. Mord ignores the question and tells them that the dungeon is about to collapse, so they should go back. Kale thinks that Mord isn't like a type of guy who will lie for his benefits, and Kale doesn't know the reason why Mord feels this dependable. In the next scene, some assassins are killing the people who are from the blood of Silver, and a certain person is left. The last standing guy from the blood of Silver gets scared as he trembles in fear. He thinks that these assassins might be the top elites from the Shadow Wolf squad that wise that. 3 awakened divine blood guys get killed previously. He realizes that he absolutely has no chance of victory here, so he thinks that he needs to summon a higher-up's consciousness into his body before he gets killed. The boy tells the Shadow Wolf squad that he will drag all of them with him, but the Shadow Wolf squad quickly decapitates him. One of them says that the boy was a disappointed coming from the blood of Silver. The other one replies that these guys are just minions, and they shouldn't underestimate the blood of Silver because their general has warned them. One of them turns around and tells his young master to let them know when he gets tired, as they are going to be in a rush from now on, and he tells his younger master that if he gets tired, they would take turns and carry him in their backs. The young master says that he wonders what kind of person Mord is, as they are going such lengths just to meet this particular individual. Lastly, he says that he is really curious. In the next scene, Mord feels that he definitely got stronger. Now that the 4 fragments are together, he can extract power from the fragments for a longer period of time now, and now he can even use this for healing. Mord thinks that the divine physique which he received as a second blessing from the god of combat takes a lot to use it, but it'll be great for the right situations. Kale knocks Mord's room and tells him that they got the results of investigation from the informants, and it seems they found Aiden. Mord opens the door and asks about Aiden's whereabouts. Kale replies that apparently Aiden left this city yesterday. Kale reads the report which says that Aiden appeared in Palace about 5 months ago. He was working as a mercenary before he met this mage named Levon and became his disciple. Levon is an advanced 6-circle mage who's rather popular within the Palos Dark family. That's why no one has been able to touch the organization. Levon is affiliated with, despite it not being that big. Last night, some unidentified group attacked the organization's base. Because of that, dozens of people died, and the guards are now tracking down the murderers under the Count's orders. Kale finishes the report by saying that apparently Aiden left through the eastern castle gates. He said that he was going to the countryside because of his mentor's request, but the informants are saying that the mentor probably just sent him away for the sake of his own safety. Mord thinks that fate has changed, as this was supposed to happen at least half a year later, and plus, Levin couldn't predict that this would have happened, and sacrificed himself in Mord's past life to save Aiden, and the novel starts with Aiden setting out for revenge. Aiden grew up as the son of a wealthy family in the Lutvan kingdom. He lived a life like that of a flower growing in a greenhouse, but he lost his family due to the blood of Silver's ambush, and after that lost his mentor to the Sage of Darkness. Because of this, Aiden comes to abhor himself, feeling responsible for the deaths of his close ones. Things are going differently from my past life, was massacring Gramelder. What led to this? Mord wonders. Mord thinks that they not only held the returning monarch as their enemy, but also the Sage of Darkness and a future that Mord doesn't know has begun. They both sit on the chairs. Mord asks Kale what happened to the mage, Levon. Kale replies that he heard that Levon went missing after the ambush last night and his corpse wasn't found, but people are thinking that he's dead. Mord stands up while Kale asks whether Mord is going to be involved in this matter. Mord replies by saying yes, because he believes that the guys that are after Levon are people Mord has to face later on. How does Mord has this many enemies at just 15, and they're all dangerous secret organizations? Kale wonders. Kale asks Mord where he's going, or does he has any idea to deal with this. Mord replies by saying yes. Mord remembers that Levan created several secret locations throughout the city. They were places he had prepared in case of situations like now and for his magic research. So Mord says that he is sure that Levan is one of those locations. In the next scene, an tavern owner's working place gets attacked. The leader of the attacks asks the tavern owner to reveal Levan's locations or else he will kill the tavern owner. Levan shows up and tells them to promise not to cause any more harm to this place, then he will go with them. The owner tells Levan to stop this nonsense because the attackers definitely aren't the type to let people live. Levan tells the owner sorry, as because of him the owner got Doctor in such dangerous situation. The owner tells Levan to hide somewhere while he will stall time for Levan to hide. What a lovely friendship. The leader laughs. "Dark Disciple number 29, the leader says while pointing at Levan. The owner asks Levan whether he knows what they meant by 29. The leader explains that they're higher-ups of a secret organization called Mages of the Dark. They call themselves the Dark Disciples. Long ago, there was a great mage who called himself the Sage of Darkness, Erickson. He fell into his enemy's trap and was sealed. The Dark Disciples stuck their hands into Erickson's consciousness using the seal and took his knowledge and power. The leader tells that number 29 is good at hiding, as he managed to avoid them for more than a decade. The leader reminds Levan that he is nothing more than experiment who was prepared to be Erickson's vessel. "Levan, you're a previous experiment. I won't make this painful for you if you just comply with UT, the leader says. Levan tells to go back and starts to attack them. The leader tells Levan that he has left no choice for but to take Levan forcefully. Levan recognizes that his opponent is using a magic attack named Jar of Sealing. The leader says that he assumed that Levan was going to try and lure the guards here by creating some loud noise. But he says that they are a secret organization with centuries of history, and they're very good at getting things done while avoiding attention. He adds that the tavern has been wrapped with a barrier so that no noise can escape while releasing an attack at Levan. Levan tries to use Partition of Darkness, but the defense didn't do that much, and Levan gets pushed back. The leader praises Levan for having such a good amount of mana, in fact, of being a mere vessel. Bam! A sound comes from the leader's back, and he turns around to see what happened. The leader sees that all his guards are lying on the ground as they get defeated by Mord. The leader tells Mord to reveal his identity. Mord tells him a Dark Disciple. "You know about us?" The leader questions as he says that he would get rid of Mord while releasing an attack named the Execution of Light. Mord stands still waiting for that attack to reach much closer and uses Mirage Destruction. Mord's attack was so powerful that the leader flies and hits the wall, which made him cough blood. Levan gets astonished to witness that a Dark Disciple that he feared all his life was completely overpowered by a single strike. "Hey, who are you? You're fighting with your bare hands. Are you of the Vernard's lineage?" Levan asks while looking at Mord. Mord replies that Levan doesn't need to know. Mord says that those Sage of Darkness guys showed up here. He just happened to save Levan in the process of hunting them down to crush them. So they weren't after me, Levan thinks. In the meantime, Kale and Leon enters. Kale says that he got rid of everyone nearby. Leon praises Mord as he says that the Dark Disciple who was an advanced mage was nothing when compared with Mord. Mord says that the barrier which was created by the Dark Disciples was lifted, so they'll soon be the center of attention and decides to get out of here now. Levan intervenes and asks Mord whether he needs anything from him as Mord saved Levan's life. Mord replies that there is one thing he needs and tells Levan to be saved from the Sage of the Darkness. Then Mord tells Levan that he doesn't need to fear them, as Mord will crush them one by one anyways. "You're going to destroy the Sage of Darkness all alone? That's ridiculous," shouts Levan, but then he realizes that it might be possible seeing how easily Mord annihilated the Dark Disciple here. "I always lived in the fear of not knowing when they'd ambush me. Can I finally be free from this hell?" Levan wonders. "What's your name?" Levan asks, and our main lead replies that his name is Mord. Lastly, Levan says that he will never forget this kindness and wishes to reward Mord for his kindness. He tells Mord to come with him. Mord thinks that if Levan is wanting to give him something, so he shouldn't refuse. Kale gives a healing potion to the tavern owner and treats his wounds. Levon takes them to an underground place which is less laminated. Kale gets surprised by seeing how Levon created it himself. Levon tells them that they have an hour's walk ahead of them, and the path is complicated, so he suggests them to follow him closely. Suddenly, the floor starts to shake. "What's that noise? Is the Sage of Darkness here?" Levon says loudly. The tavern owner replies that it's the sound of the explosives that he set off. The tavern owner says that he collapsed the passageway to buy them some time. Leon asks the tavern owner whether he is sure about doing this because his shop will also get destroyed in the process. The tavern owner replies that it should be fine as he will not be able to make a living in this neighborhood anymore anyway. Then, the tavern owner puts his hand on Levon's shoulder and tells him that he will follow Levon as he destroyed his shop because of Levon, so has some debt to collect from Levon. Levon gets shocked, but later he tells thanks to the owner. Suddenly, the funny moments shifts as the tavern owner glares at Levon and asks him why that dark disciple called him number 29. Levon explains that he was one of the Sage of Darkness's test subject. The Sage of Darkness has been conducting cruel medical experiments to create a vessel for Archmage Erikson's spirit, and he was one of their guinea pigs. Levon says that he doesn't know how he became a test subject, because they erased his childhood memories. In addition, Levon says that those guys made a single mistake, and it was that they couldn't completely erase his ego. And with Erikson's spirit inside him and his ego intact, he successfully acquired knowledge about magic through his implanted memories, thus he was able to escape using those powers. Later, he wandered around, evading their eyes, and lastly settled down in Palace, after hearing Levon's cruel story. Both Leon and Kale loses their composure and curses the Sage of the Darkness for doing such cruel things to Levon. Mord thinks Levon's story is exactly the same as he read on the novel. Mord knows that 10 years have passed since Levon escaped, but until now, most of the test subjects have died. Unable to handle Erikson's spirit, so Erikson is an extremely important experiment to them. Then Levon stops them by saying that they've reached their destination. He moves the rocks and takes out a red box. "What's that?" Mord asks. Levon replies that it's the collection of information that he gathered about the Sage of the Darkness. Levon says that he has written it down in as much detail as he could, so it will give Mord a clue to their hideout. Mord remembers that this is the collection of materials that Levin gave to Aiden in his last will in the novel. Aiden gained detailed knowledge about them through this, and set out for revenge, and in the process, he gets entangled with the blood of silver, his original subject of vengeance. Mord asks Levon where he will be going now. Levon replies that he is going to leave this place and got to an acquaintance in Sidon. Levon tells Mord to stop by the Red Dragon Drunken Frenzy on 23rd Street in the east and ask for him if Mord ever goes to Sidon and needs any help. "Ah, I see then ask for Mord Vernard's at the White Demon Realm Gatekeeper Legion. If you ever need my help," Mord replies. In addition, Mord says that there's no guarantee he will be there, but at least Levon will get in touch with Mord. Lastly, Levon wishes Mord the best of luck in his future endeavors, and with that, the step where Aiden's journey as the magician who dominates the world would start was gone. Unlike the original story, Aiden didn't lose his master, and he left Palace much earlier. How will this incident change the future? Well, only time will tell, Mord concludes, and with that, the wheels of fate have already begun to turn. In the next scene, in a palace, the Blood of Silver, senior executive, 24-hour white silver, Lutvan Kingdom's 5th prince. Ceylon tells the Blood of Silver, senior executive, 24-hour white silver, a noble named Ruth, that he is incompetent. Ruth replies that he didn't expect it that the things will out this way, and he says that he is genuinely curious whether that person, Mord, is truly blessed by the god of luck. "What about the root?" Ceylon asks. Ruth replies that General Ilden is stepping in, and they've confirmed the best 4. But apart from that, they're not sure how many guys have been deployed. Ceylon wonders why the blind monster is going to such lengths for Mord. Ruth replies that Mord must be pretty important to the blind monster. Ruth tells Ceylon that fighting Ilden just for the sake of presenting Mord to his father is a losing proposition no matter how he looks at it. Ceylon gets really angry and tells Ruth that he will send reinforcements, so Ruth should get rid of Mord along with the blind monster's loyal dogs once and for all. Ruth replies that it's a charming, so it would get rid of Mord before he ends up in the old monster's arm. Ceylon gives Ruth Blood of Silver's 27 elites, all mid-level executives and above, as well as 5 divine bloods on top of that who are waiting for Ruth's command. Ruth intrudes himself to the new recruits and tells them that he will be the commanding officer in this mission. "All right, boys, shall we go hunt this newborn puppy?" Ruth questions. Mord's party has come to kill the Dark Disciples, also known as the Returning Monarch, in their hideout. Leon questions Mord why he is killing the Returning Monarch first, even though he got informations about the Sage of Darkness. Mord replies that the Returning Monarchs is close to their destination, that's why they have come to deal with them first. As Mord was walking, he smashes the floor exactly below him. Kale asks Mord, "What is this place?" Mord replies that it's the Returning Monarch storage. Leon sees that this storage is full of expensive stuff, from processed magical herbs to high-end alchemical potions and even expensive magical items, while Mord is looking for a specific box. Mord finds that box and opens it. It contains the martial god's tears. Mord says that it's a once-in-a-lifetime trial of death that a magic martial artist can take on for the chance to advance, and he too was able to gain aura in a short amount of time, thanks to these tears of the martial god. He says that in the novel, Aiden gave the tears of martial god he got here to Leon later on, and thanks to that, Leon progressed explosively. Kale says that the martial god's tears is a secret medicine made from a recipe from the Far East. And it's hard to get your hands on this. How does the Dark Mage group have it? Kale wonders. Leon replies that this probably isn't something the Dark Disciple would have produced or purchased through normal channels anyway. They must have stumbled upon it while robbing somebody of their possessions. Kale has only heard of the god's tears, but he has never seen or touched it. Suddenly a wired thought comes into Kale's mind. "Mord, you're not going to drink this, are you? Someone as monstrously talented as you doesn't need to take a risk like this, right?" Kale asks abruptly. Mord replies that he had already drunk it. Kale gets shocked and his mouth gets wide open as he asks Mord how and where he had drunk it. Mord ignores this questions and says that the god's tears cannot be used in the same person twice. So, Mord tells Kale that he would give him this strength if Kale wants it. Mord asks Kale whether he is ready to gamble with his life. Kale remembers that Day General Ilden saved him and he received a dream, no, a wish. He wanted to become He wanted to become someone strong enough to fight by Ilden's side, so he worked himself to the bone every day to make it happen, and finally earned the honor of escorting the general's favorite, Mord. However, after traveling with Mord, he was once again reminded of the limits that hard work alone can never overcome, and Kale envied Mord, who, unlike Kale, possessed genius talent. Kale thinks that just like as an extra who can't be the main character, one can't do anything about the cards they've been dealt, so at that time, all Kale could do was accept it and give up. But now the way to overcome that barrier is right in front of Kale. Kale really wants to drink this now and become stronger, but he wonders whether it would be right for him to be this selfish, as he is a soldier who fulfills his duties out of loyalty to the general. Then he wonders whether is he even doing his mission properly. "Am I any help to you?" Kale asks Mord because he got confused. Mord thinks that he and Kale have been together for 2 months now, and over that time, Kale has shown a knack for adapting to the multitude of variables he's encountered. Mord says that he had also been benefited greatly from Kale's superior stealth skills and his ability to manipulate spirits. Mord realizes that without Kale, his journey would have been much more uncomfortable and problematic, and the progress they've made so far would have been delayed. Mord justifies that the deciding factor in giving Kale the potion is because of his sense of duty as a warrior, and as because for the sake of Ilden, he's willing to run to his death. After thinking deeply, Mord tells Kale that he has been a great help. Mord says that those Blood of Silver guys will send an even stronger force next time, and so far it's only been the high-ranking executives' henchmen, but next time they'll move themselves. So Mord tells Kale that they have no choice but to become stronger. After hearing this, Kale thinks that Mord is right. More powerful enemies will come for them next time, and the last time they fought the blood of silver, Kale was barely any help to Mord. So Kale decides to change here as he doesn't want to be a burden. Kale made up his mind and takes the god's tears in his hand. Leon speaks up and tells Kale to reconsider before taking such dangerous actions, but he was late as Kale already consumed the god's tears. Leon asks Mord why they are going such lengths just to become strong. Leon tells Mord that if they are being targeted by some big shots, they can always run, or they could go to their family. So why on earth a person should take this much risk? Leon asks. Mord replies that his family cannot be his refuge because the blood of the silver is after Mord in order to fulfill the Archduke's wishes. Leon gets shocked as he finds out that the Archduke is targeting Mord and asks whether the Archduke is holding hands with the blood of silver to target Mord. Mord says that the Archduke is working with the blood of silver for a long time and has done many unforgivable crimes. Lastly, Mord says that the Archduke, to stave off his own aging, he has been feeding on Vernard's bloodline. That's ridiculous. No way! The Archduke is a living legend who has accomplished countless feats as a warrior for Vernards and is revered by his people as the guardian deity of the duchy. But you say he's actually a filthy villain who keeps himself young by sacrificing his children? Leon questions Mord. Mord replies in a cold voice that whether Leon believes it or not is his decision. Mord remembers that in the novel, Leon may have been a dreary man, but he believed in and devoted himself to Aiden more than anyone else. However, when all that he sacrificed resulted in the world's destruction, he was in the most despair. So this time, Mord doesn't want Leon to suffer the same fate, but he also doesn't have the eloquence to convince Leon to make the right choice. Mord thinks that he just wants Leon to make the right choice. Putting your life on the line for someone you don't even trust is sad and infuriating, isn't it? Mord questions. After listening to this, a sudden sensation of trust captures Leon. However, this ridiculous words comforted Leon, and Leon decides to trust Mord. Leon explains that he doesn't know the Archduke very well, and he also doesn't know Mord for a long time, but if he ever chooses between them, he would always pick Mord. So he says that he would trust Mord, the man who saved his life. After hearing this, Mord smirks. Then they notices that Kale has already consumed all the God's Tears potion at the Arch-Lich's hideout. Returning Monarch's leader Dagger is angry as he finds out that one of the 7 soul fragments was completely destroyed, and he wonders who can it be. Dagger shares that it was 70 years ago when he found the Arch-Lich Lord's soul and formed a contract. 40 years after that, he had also become an Arch-Lich through the power he gained from the contract and the map of the soul pieces. He then formed the Returning Monarch, and now he has successfully expanded the organization to the size it is today. All that was left for him to do was to find the soul fragments for the resurrection. Is the Arch-Lich Lord's complete resurrection impossible now? Dagger wonders. He says that the Arch-Lich Lord's memories were shattered into the soul fragments, so he needs all of them for his memories to be intact. That is why it's been hard for them to find the other pieces since we only have one piece, but recently all their efforts piled up to nothing because of a certain someone who managed to kill all of their elite forces in Reline, the magic crystal in which some of the Arch-Lich Lord's consciousness is stored in. The Arch-Lich Lord's consciousness tells the Dagger not to worry because even if he is resurrected with one less fragment, he still has a way to make up for it. He also have a way to transcend his past. But of course, it'll become more difficult the less fragments he has. He asks Dagger when he will be possessing the second fragment. Dagger replies that yesterday he received a news informing him that the second fragment has been found. Dagger goes to says that it's too much early for them to be desperate, but suddenly he feels that the presence of the group that acquired the second fragment is gone. The Arch-Lich Lord says that yet another one of his fragment just got destroyed. At that time, on the contrary, Mord has already annihilated the Lich who was carrying the second fragment. Mord tells the Lich not be upset because the Lich is the second one who was killed by a 15-year boy. The second soul fragment of the Arch-Lich Lord has been destroyed. Mord says that this Lich's magic skills seemed a bit different from the other one, but its combat skills were the same. That made things easier for Mord as he was able to defeat it without any difficulty. Mord realizes that he has definitely gotten stronger ever since the fight in Lorraine, which was 2 months ago. However, he says that the one who has improved the most is Kale. Leon thinks that Kale got incredibly strong after consuming the god of combat's tears. He can't manifest aura yet, but his mana has definitely increased, and he's become more skilled. Leon thinks that the Arch-Lich had been summoning advanced undead. He had managed to summon 4 Death Knights, the apex of the undead. While Mord fought off the Arch-Lich, Kale and Leon fought the 4 Death Knights. But Leon says that if he considers the contribution rate, Kale probably did 80% of the work. Kale asks Leon for how many years he will keep using this sword. Leon tells Kale not to lecture. Leon thinks that others wouldn't understand why he uses swords. He says that there is an important reason behind it, because a sword to him represents his freedom from his prison-like past and his will to live freely. They found 4 treasures in total. Mord says that he destroyed the Golden Throne and got the 10th fragment. It didn't fit in with any of the other fragments he already had, but he did want to find a useful item. Mord says that half of these treasures are trash. Mord conveys that this is a dark magic text that will allow a person to form a contract with a powerful being of the demon realm, but Mord doesn't need that, and as there was no information of this silver bracelet, so Mord decides to keep it for now. Lastly, a bottle filled with a liquid is left. Mord picks it up and throws it at Kale. He tells Kale to drink it. Kale asks, "What is this?" Mord replies that it's nectar, and it seems that the Arch-Lich Lord prepared it for his resurrection. Nectar is the name of a drink that only the highest-ranked gods were allowed to consume, according to myth. It is supposed to have been made from the world tree's essence, and if a human were to drink it, they may obtain divine powers. Leon asks Mord why is he giving this to Kale if this drink is so powerful, then Mord should drink it first. Mord replies that they are more losses than benefits if he drinks it. Leon tells him to explain the reason. Mord replies that it would be very hard for him to explain, so they should accept it as a fact. Mord was actually going to drink it, but the moment he held it in his hand, his instinct whispered to him, telling that this is poison for him. Mord thinks that it did not matter when it was just Vernard's divine blood within him. But with the awakening of Arita, the god of heavens, he doesn't know what would happen to the balance of the divine powers if he were to drink this. But if Kale were to drink it, it would make him stronger, as well as allow him to possess world fragments. Only those with divine powers are allowed to absorb world fragments. Mord explains that this does not refer to divine blood only. Those who received attention from a god and were given a strong blessing, or those who were combined with something that possessed divine power, or those who consumed nectar. All also meet this requirement. Mord says that he has no intention of sharing the world fragments, but there is one thing Mord is worried about, which is the creation of New World. In the New World, all the people Aiden had loved were there, and they had all forgotten about the destroyed old world, allowing them to live happy lives as victors. The New World was like a model garden created for Aiden, a model garden in which the only real people were Aiden's friends, while the rest were just fake models of people that Aiden had created. Aiden did not dream of such a world from the beginning. The new world Aiden's enemies wanted to create were worlds where their own fantasies were realized, and Aiden rejected such a fake world. But the more fragments he collected, the more he was drawn to this ideal. In the end, he made a horrible world that was much more selfish and terrible than what his enemies had wanted to create. Mord concludes that if collecting all of the world fragments make it so that you cannot resist the temptation of a new world, then it's probably wise to have a trustworthy teammate with whom he can share the fragments with. After leaving Palace, they did 2 things for 20 days. First, they destroyed the returning monarch's secret base. Second, we found a soul fragment that even the returning monarch hadn't found and destroyed it. And now, they're headed to the base of the Sage of Darkness, according to Levon's information. As they were running, Kale notices that the sky looks ominous and stops. Kale points out at the demonification phenomenon. Leon says that this time it's a large one. Mord thinks that the first demonification he came across was about 500 meters, but this demonification has already covered half of the city, which makes it incomparably dangerous. Leon asks, is this the place where the Sage of Darkness's base is? Mord replies that it seems like the base is swallowed by that demonification thing. Leon asks that shouldn't they wait for the warriors of this city to take care of the demonification first? Mord replies, saying no because theirs is someone that Mord needs to repay. Mord has experienced one change ever since his senses reached a higher dimension which initiated the activation of a seventh sense. He says that if up to the sixth sense is human, then the seventh sense is a god's sense. Only those who have access to the power of the heavens can look at the true essence of the world through this seventh sense, and this seventh sense is telling him that Erna Vernars is there. At the city, a person is begging Erna Vernars to save Viden because Viden stayed behind to help them. Erna replies that entering now is not possible, and they need to wait until the backup squad gets here. Suddenly, Erna feels a sensation of divine blood nearby. At the entering gate of the city, the guards tells Leon that if he wants to see Miss Erna, then he needs to take off his mask. Leon says that he can't do that because he has a terrible scar on his face. Mord thinks that Leon is being stubborn. Then he realizes that it's natural for a brother to feel this way because Erna is a sibling that's important to Leon, whom he couldn't see for years. However, Mord conceives that Leon is embarrassed to see Erna since he's left the family. Mord awakens his divine blood as he gets ready to use a more violent method. He releases his aura. The guards get scared a bit and asks whether they intend to fight. Kale gets shocked and tells Mord to control himself and not to fight because it would be a great trouble if Mord get caught by the Vernar's military. Mord reassures Kale by saying that he doesn't intend to fight. He is just calling Erna Vernars by releasing his divine blood. Kale asks Mord about whom is he talking about. Erna Vernars lands and greets Mord. Mord bows down to greet Miss Erna. Erna orders the guards to guide Mord and the others to her tent because they are valuable guests. The guard informs Erna that this man is wearing a helmet and seems suspicious. Erna looks at Leon and then tells the guards to also escort him to her tent. Erna thought that Mord was heading north, so she asks Mord what is he doing here. Mord explains that he was carrying a secret mission under General Ilden's orders and they have something they need to do here, that's why they are here. The personal escort of Miss Erna finds Mord very arrogant as Mord is talking casually with Erna. Erna replies that if it's a secret mission, then Mord needs to keep as low of a profile as possible. So, why did Mord came to see her where there are lots of people? She questions. Mord replies that he has come here to repay his debts because the martial god's tears which he received from Erna saved his life. Erna asks Mord whether he consumed them. Mord replies, saying yes. He says that when he consumed them, he earned aura. No way. This can't be true. Aura at the age of 15. Erna gets extremely shocked because even Miss Erna, who was known as a genius from a young age and received the best education, did not earn aura at the age of 15. The escort wonders how can a person achieved this kind of feat. Erna praises Mord by saying that Mord's talents are beyond someone's imagination, as it's only being 3 months since she last saw Mord, but now he has already earned aura and also made friends along the way. Kale greets Miss Erna and introduces himself by saying his name. Kale introduces that he is an advanced warrior under General Ilden's command. Leon tries to introduce himself as Paydon and says that he is a mercenary. What are you trying to do? Leon, Erna asks. Then Leon realizes that Erna knew from the beginning that the helmet-wearing guy is Leon. Erna explains that she recognized Leon from the beginning, but she thought that Leon just doesn't want others to know that it was him. That's why she brought you here. Did you really think I, Erna Vernars, wouldn't recognize you, Leon, with whom I have spent my childhood? Erna questions. Erna says that she knew Leon was working as a mercenary, but she never expected that Leon will Gion Mord. For Leon, Erna was a lovely child that he had thought of as his own sister, the same person who made Leon look upon his own disgusting dark side. Leon had kept his distance from Erna because of his envy, but Erna had always been thinking about Leon. While removing his helmet, Leon says that he is feeling all kinds of complex emotions right now, as he is genuinely happy to see Erna again. Leon tells Erna that she has grown a lot since the last time he met her. Erna smiles and replies that it's been 5 years after all, and she has become 20 years old already. Mord intervenes and tells Erna that he wants to ask something. Mord asks Erna whether she is also able to differentiate individuals of the Vernard's bloodline with just divine blood. Erna answers by saying yes, but she says that it's restricted to the people she already knows. Erna gets a bit confused and asks Mord whether he can also use this skill. Mord replies that he can use the same skill, and it's also restricted to the people he knows. Erna finds it very surprising that it being only 2 years since she learned this skill, but Mord can do it despite having awakened only a year ago. Erna realizes that she has underestimated Mord because he can use both divine blood detection as well as aura at such a young age. Lastly, she concludes that she can expect a lot from Mord then. Mord asks Erna about the current situation of this city. Erna explains that the demonification is happening, and if this reaches level 3, then this entire city will become a place where no life can thrive, and if a dungeon break occurs, then it'll become a historical disaster. Erna says that Aiden and she were dispatched to prevent this from happening. Aiden got here first, and went in saying that he will carry out the raid, but the result was a complete disaster. Half of Aiden's squad died before Erna even got here, and only one of them managed to escape to tell her this news, but the biggest problem is that Aiden is also trapped in there. Erna says that the backup team will need at least 3 days to get here, so they have no choice but to wait here until the backup arrives. Erna explains that this demonification dungeon's core must be a feudal lord rank, so they're assuming that it's a demon realm count. She says that a count of the demon realm has an army led by other feudal lord rank demon. She understands that her squad alone can't handle this. However, she says that if Mord's party agree to help them, then it would be worth a shot to try and rescue the survivors, so she asks for Mord's decision. Mord thinks that Aiden did not appear in the novel. That must be because he died here. Mord says that he wouldn't help if it was just Aiden dying here. But there is one thing that bothers him. It's that Erna is also someone who wasn't a part of the novel. Mord says that if the reason for that is because Erna died before Aiden's story began, then there is no guarantee that she did not die here. So Mord thinks that this is a good opportunity for him to prevent Erna's death and see if she's a good candidate to become the Archduke. And if Mord has more achievements to his name by defeating a feudal lord rank demon, then it'll be greatly helpful to achieving level 2 of divine blood opening. So taking all of this into consideration, Mord decides to help. Erna tells her squad not to forget that their goal is to rescue the survivors and then fall back as soon as possible. Erna's squad has 15 people total, and adding Mord's party, it makes it 18. Mord realizes that Leon wouldn't use his fists to keep his identity a secret. As they were walking forward, they find that a bunch of monsters are running towards them from every side. Erna suggests that they should make an opening in the direction where Aiden is in, but she says that she can't feel Aiden's presence, so she predicts that Aiden must be at a pretty deep place. Mord says that he thinks he knows which direction Aiden is. Erna says that she would trust Mord and orders everybody to open up their divine blood as they would make this effort count. In the next scene, Aiden's party in under attack and surrounded by demons. Aiden tells his comrades, Botan and Wools, that he is sorry for his shortcomings. Wools tells young Master Aiden not to give up. The high-ranking demon commander says that the divine blood is the most luxurious delicacy there is, and today he will serve the people with divine blood in the Count's table. Wools tells Botan that he would leave young Master Aiden in Botan's care, as Wools will try to open up a path for them. Wools asks Aiden whether he remembers that day when he saved a boy who was cursed and became a lycanthrope and was almost burnt at the stake by the villagers. Wools says that if Sir Aiden didn't save him that day, he would not exist in this world right now. So today, Woolsey says that he is finally going to repay Sir Aiden for saving his life that day. Wools tells them not to give up as they still have hope, and then transforms into a lycanthrope. Wools tells the demon that he would show him who the real prey is. Wools charges forward and bites one of the lower demons. The demon commander perceives that Woolsey devours his enemies to recover his mana. One of the demon uses his staff to attack Wools. Wools sees it and jumps upward, kills that demon. The commander demon praises Woolsey for being this strong. The demon tells Woolsey that now he is going to play it seriously and uses an attack, the Light of Execution, which makes Woolsey immovable for a moment. The demon then attacks Woolsey in the chest using a spear. By seeing this, Aiden can't stop himself and tells Botan that he wants to fight because it's more honorable for a warrior to die in the battle. As Botan was stopping Aiden from acting recklessly, the demon appears in front of them and tries to attack Aiden. Suddenly, an impulse ball rain strikes that area and almost every demon was killed. The commander demon thinks, who can it be? He then gets attacked by a mirage destruction which heavily injured him. In the meantime, Botan takes Aiden to a safe place. Mord enters the area from the sky. His landing was so impactful that the ground shatters. After landing, Mord grabs the demon's head and punches it, completely breaking it into pieces. Botan and Aiden witness Mord using telekinesis and thinks that only master-rank magic combat artists can use telekinesis. Wolves tries to attack Mord, but Mord stops it. Aiden shouts, telling Mord that Woolsey is not an enemy, and he doesn't mean to attack Mord as Woolsey can't differentiate between ally and enemies because of his current state. Aiden reassures Mord that Woolsey will become normal after some time. Mord replies that he knows Sir Woolsey already. Mord then knocks out Sir Woolsey. Aiden wonders whether he has met a divine blood awakener as strong as the person standing in front of him before. Aiden gets completely shocked when he sees that the person standing in front of him is none other than Mord Vernard. Aiden asks Mord why is he here. Mord replies that he was just passing by and heard what happened. He gives a healing potion to Aiden and Woolsey. Then, Mord asks Aiden for the reason he entered the dungeon first without waiting for the backups. Is it because of the successor competition? Mord questions. Aiden replies by saying yes, and to be precise, it was because of Arna. Aiden explains that as time passes, the successor competition continues to grow more intense. The man closest to the Archduke position at the moment is the oldest son of the family and also who is Aiden's brother, Alan. And after Alan is the third son, Dren, and the fourth son, Horan, who jumped onto the battlefield early to build their careers. Aiden says that it was hard for him to close the gap between them since he entered the competition late, but he obviously had no intention of giving up, though, and thought that there would be a possibility for him, too, if he acknowledged the gap between them and just tried his best to catch up. However, Arna took that away from Aiden. Arna was called a genius from a very young age. She joined the competition 2 years later than Aiden, but she was already on the verge of surpassing him. Aiden felt threatened and began volunteering for missions that would bring him lots of credit. That plan worked out at first, and I was able to create a gap between him and Arna once again, but Aiden experienced great failure earlier this year. During a mission in the White Demon Realm, the renowned Order's family interrupted and caused great damage. The failure of the mission alone was impactful enough, but the fact that it was caused by their arch-nemesis, the Orders, led to Aiden's image being damaged. That is when Aiden was paired with Arna for a mission, and he was overtaken with panic that she might surpass him. That's when he realized that he needs to make sure that he does better than Arna on this mission. He decided that he will go in first and clear the entrance area and just needs to not push himself too hard. Aiden says that now he realizes that he justified his actions with nonsense logic because of his greed, and in the end, he pushed his innocent subordinates to their deaths. Lastly, he says that he should have waited no matter how anxious he was. After hearing this, Mord thinks that he doesn't knew Arna was this talented became she never existed in the novel. Mord knew that Arna had the best mana out of everyone, but now it seems that's not all she has. Aiden asks Mord for the reason of saving him. Mord replies that Arna asked him to save Aiden. Arna did that? Aiden questions. Mord explains that Arna's squad was going to act as a bait to distract the enemies while Mord rescues Aiden. While they were talking, Arna's squad enters the area. Arna says that there were a bunch of ridiculously strong monsters at first, but their attacks began getting weaker. Arna meets Aiden and tells him that it's nice to see that he is okay. Arna tells Aiden that he should be grateful to Mord as he would be dead if it weren't for Mord. Aiden asks Arna why did she told Mord to save him. Aiden says that they're rivals. Wouldn't it be good for you if a rival is gone? Aiden questions. Arna answers that it's true they are not related either, but she says that she doesn't need a reason to save someone. Plus, she says that Aiden can't hinder her because she is going to be the Archduke. Aiden bows down his head and tells thanks to Arna, as because of her both Botan and Woolsey were saved. Aiden tells Arna that one day he will repay his debt to her. Erna expected that Veden will be getting all mad while saying that he's not going to give Erna the position of Archduke, but she gets shocked when she heard Veden saying the word thanks. "What?" Erna shouts voice, but Leon shouts louder as he was more shocked than Erna. Leon was extremely shocked because it is the first time he heard Veden saying thanks. Veden says that he has been wanting to ask it for a long time. "Why are you wearing that helmet, Leon?" Veden questions. Erna's squad's members say that it can't be young Master Leon because this helmet guy is using a sword. Leon reveals himself. How does everyone recognizes him? He wonders. Viden gets surprised when he finds out that Leon was trying to hide his identity. Leon asks Viden how does he recognize him. Viden replies that it's because of the bracelet that he is wearing. Leon's mother gave that bracelet to Leon at coming-of-age ceremony. "You remember this?" Leon asks. Viden replies that Leon always wore it, so yes. Now this time, Erna gets shocked as she didn't know Leon had something like this. Mord suggests that they should talk later and should get out of here. Suddenly, the demon count with his entire army enters the area. The count says that he wants an apology from them as they created a mess of his home. Erna realizes that previously it wasn't just a simple ruse to them further in, but it was to draw them into a trap. The Count praises Erna for being smart and says that he was preparing a banquet for the descendants of Vernars. Leon asks the demon whether he is truly the Demon Count. The Demon Count replies by saying yes and introduces himself as Lotais, who will soon feast on their precious blood and flesh. Erna perceives that there are at least 2,000 of monsters and dozens of demons, and there are feudal lord-rank demons too. Erna sees a lady who seems to be very strong. Mord replies that the lady seems to be a baroness, so she must have a part in the battle. Mord tells Erna that they are surrounded by enemies from all directions. "Which direction should we pick to fight, though?" Erna asks. Mord says that enemies on the east are the strongest, and the ones at the west are noticeably weaker, as if they are luring them to attack the west. Both of them awaken their divine blood and decide to attack south first. As they are moving south, one warrior-type baronet and one mage-type baron rush towards them. Mord tells Erna that he would take care of the baron and she should kill the baronet. The baronet attacks Erna first while Kale and the other fight the other monsters. The baronet asks Erna for how long she could hold up against a sword with her bare hands. Erna awakens her divine aura and replies that she is not sure because she would like to ask the same question. She uses Crevice of Wind to send the baronet flying. In the air, the baronet uses his red flames of frenzy, but he is shocked to see that Erna is unscratched. Then, Erna moves towards the baronet and uses her mountain breaker, which completely annihilates her target. Leon thinks that Erna has gotten much stronger in the meantime, but he wonders why now, when he looks at Erna, she doesn't feel as overwhelming powerful as before. The answer is right in front of him, as Mord defeated the Baron at the same time and as easily as Erna. All the members get a new hope when they witness that both the Baron and the Baronet were defeated this easily. All the members think that they still have a chance and realize that without depending on Mord and Erna, they should also kill some monsters. As they are moving to attack with all their might, they get stopped by the Demon Realm's Baron from the other side. The Demon Count from earlier says that she didn't expect the south side to fall this fast. The Demon Count thinks that the younglings from the Vernars are unimaginably strong, so she guessed that she should put an end to this. Mord thinks that it's common for a demon who has the role of the core to provide power to their subordinates, but to imbue the body with power and consciousness to reach almost Count-level strength. It seems like the demons are getting stronger too, Mord concludes. The Demon Count says that she would grant Mord a painless death if he surrenders and asks Mord to make the choice. Mord tells Erna to fight alongside him to bring down the Demon Count. "What about the other guys?" Erna asks. Mord replies that they have to trust their allies. Erna tells Viden to take the commander position while Mord and Erna will fight with the Demon Count. "Are you sure about that?" Viden questions. Erna replies that if Viden doesn't agree, all of them will die here. Erna realizes that she can't win against a Demon Count with this much mana left, so she decides to use all the mana she has. She charges at the Demon Count and uses Crevice of Wind. "Ha! You think a little trick like this will work on me?" The demon laughs. Erna replies that she knows that this will not be enough, while Mord punches the demon from the back, and the Demon Count falls on the ground. Both Erna and Mord rush towards the demon. The demon count uses Flash of Massacre and successfully injures Erna's left hand. Both them stop attacking, and Mord gives Erna a healing potion. Erna tells Mord that to just wait for 30 seconds. Mord tells Erna not to worry because he is going to use his ace card. Mord says that since he has decided to use this, he is also going to be the one who will end this fight. The Count tells Mord that it seems like Mord possesses a pretty useful artifact or blessing, as it's been a while she has felt that kind of pain. Then, she says that she won't show any mercy and uses an attack, the dance of burning swordsmen. Mord tells Erna to stay back and faces the attack head-on, while successfully dodging it. The Count wields aura of dual swords and says that she will end this right now, but suddenly Mord's punch appears right in front of her. The Count recognizes that it's second blessing from the god of combat divine physique. How is that possible? She wonders. She asks Mord how is he using a Vernard's technique. Mord replies that it's because he is the god of combat's descendant, while Erna seems shocked because she has heard that the divine physique in the Vernard's legends, and at that time she thought, as it was just an exaggeration. Before the end of the Age of Legends, many giant species existed. In order to close the gap in power created by the size difference, the god of combat created the ability, divine physique, a giant made of light using the power of divine blood. Mord feels like he is controlling a robot as his weight is 30 times its usual mass because of divine physique's blessing. That's why it makes it hard for Mord to use skills that require precise control, and it also consumes a lot of mana. The Count uses her power to cut off Mord's divine physique's arm, and at the same time, she uses her sword and stabs it inside its neck. The Demon Count feels that it wasn't hard at all unless Mord isn't the god of combat himself. In the contrary, Mord decides to test the mana bracelet from the Great Mage's ruins because it only uses mana to regenerate without hurting Mord physically. He says that even if an arm was blown off, or if the throat pierced, all that he needs to do is use some mana to regenerate. He regenerates the arm and captures the Count. Mord says that he would now end this and completely annihilates her. After the fight, Mord and Erna's parties headed in deeper, but Lotias had already used up all of her mana to possess the Baron, which made it easy for them to defeat her. They returned to the village after that. The news that the Vernard squad succeeded at preventing the demonification process and they're going to hold a celebration reached people's ear. Mord tells Erna not to reveal to the higher-ups that it all was his doing. Mord tells Erna to report them that he was only just a bit of help. Firstly, Erna refuses to do that because she can't take someone else's credit. Mord explains that currently he is carrying a secret mission, so he can't have the higher-ups knowing about what he is doing. Through this incident, Mord learned how skilled Erna is, as she has 50% more mana than Mord. Mord thinks that with that kind of talent, she will soon catch up to the other successors in no time, so he intends on making Erna the future Archduke. Mord thinks that it's important for Erna to have a lot of more achievements in order to become the future Archduke. Mord tells Erna to think of it as him repaying his debts as he was indebted to Erna. Erna replies that the achievements are more valuable than Mord's debt. Mord wonders whose side will Erna take when she finds out about the Archduke's secret, and the fact that Mord is going to kill the Archduke. Erna, if you really think that, then can you promise to trust me on one thing in the future? Mord questions. Erna says that she didn't understand what Mord meant by it. Mord replies that she would know when the time comes. Mord tells Erna to promise him that she will support his decision even if it's hard to trust him when the time comes. Erna simply replies, saying, "All right, are you sure?" Mord questions. Erna explains that she might regret this decision later. But when Lotias appeared, she could tell that even if the reinforcements had come in with them, they would have all been killed if it weren't for Mord. So from that day, she regarded Mord as her savior. Taking all the things into consideration, she decides to keep this promise. Mord tells thanks while smiling. Erna didn't know that Mord could smile like that. Mord tells Erna to keep this incident a secret, and Erna agrees to it. Lastly, Mord reveals to Erna that he can only use the god of combat skills because he has met the god of combat himself. Mord says that one day he will tell Arna how to meet the god of combat. Then, Mord goes to meet Viden. Mord praises Viden for his fast recovery. Viden says thanks to Mord for saving them. Viden tells Mord that he has prepared a gift for him to express gratitude. Viden gives Mord his divine bloodstone. Mord says that he doesn't know anything about it. Viden explains that this is an essence of divine blood, created by extracting the blood of the traditional bloodlines. Only the official bloodline is allowed this privilege. It's created with the blessing at the temple. Viden says that these are usually given to children. He made it to give it to his own future children too, but he couldn't think of any other good gift. What is this for? Mord questions. Viden tells Mord to try imbuing it with his divine blood sometime, as it's a kind of accelerator that will bring Mord to a higher realm than what his divine blood can. Viden says that he wanted to ask something. Viden asks Mord whether he is intending to make Arna the Archduke. Mord replies saying yes. Viden says that if Mord is the one supporting her, then Arna is going to be a much more difficult rival than before. But Viden says that seeing Mord makes him want to give up even less. Mord doesn't understand what Viden meant by it. Viden explains that Arna's strong, but even if she's been walking, then Mord has been flying. Arna may be talented, but she's not the strongest in the world. So Viden says that it's a fight worth fighting. Mord says that he likes optimistic people. Lastly, Viden says that next time he would surprise Mord big time. Mord, Kale, and Leon rested at the Vernard's camp for a day. Arna supplied them with the equipment they had been running low on, like potions. She gave them many other supplies on top of that. Mord was able to get the silver bracelet he got from eliminating the Arch-Lich's second soul fragment evaluated, and it turns out that it increases agility and cognitive abilities for a certain amount of time. Kale was excited to receive the bracelet and ran around the festival taking care of errands. Leon and Arna had a meal together to talk about the past, and that night, Leon went to see Mord. Leon tells Mord to teach him as a warrior of Vernard's. He says that he learned while accompanying Mord that the path that Mord is in is worth seeing to the end, and Leon realizes that in order to accompany Mord on that path, he needs to let go of his useless obsessions. Leon says that he is giving up on swords. Mord perceives that the look in Leon's eyes are different, and he is determined. Mord was waiting for Leon to say that. Mord says that if Leon is ready, then they will need to start with this. "What's this?" Leon questions. Mord replies that he would know soon enough. "Oh, this one's the direct bloodline of the Vernards?" The god of combat laughs as he is excited to see how much of his blood runs through them.